The engine coughed once, sputtered twice, and then fell into a dead silence. Paxton's hands clenched the steering wheel of the luxury sedan, his knuckles turning bone white. A quick glance in the rearview mirror confirmed his worst fears. His boss, Rhodes King, was hammering away at his phone, entirely oblivious to the fact they were now a sitting duck in the middle of Southside Chicago. This was a catastrophe because in precisely 45 minutes, Rhodes was scheduled to appear at the grand opening of King Collective's flagship restaurant, Meridian, and face the one thing he'd been desperately dodging for the last 8 months. Regarding the food tasting, sir, Paxton began, his voice carefully calibrated to deliver terrible news to a man who had zero tolerance for failure. My sincerest apologies, but it appears we have an engine malfunction. Rhodes's fingers froze mid-text. A muscle in his jaw twitched, a tiny menacing signal that made titans of industry shrink in their boardroom chairs. He lifted his head, his movements slow and deliberate. "We've stopped," Rhodes stated, his voice dangerously calm. It wasn't a question, it was a verdict that promised immediate termination for the person responsible. "Yes, sir," Paxton confirmed, his throat suddenly dry. "In the middle of the road, yes, sir. In the vehicle I gave you explicit instructions to have serviced before my return from Singapore." Paxton's proper British accent grew thicker, a dead giveaway of his rising stress. "To be fair, sir, your return was 3 weeks ahead of schedule. And this car had been in long-term storage for 6 months while you were Paxton." "Yes, sir." "Stop making excuses and fix this." Rhodes glared out the tinted window, a wave of frustration washing over him. 43 minutes until he had to stand before Chicago's culinary elite, his investors, and a pack of ravenous critics. And of course, act like he was eager to sample Chef Whitmore's new menu. 43 minutes to invent yet another plausible reason why the celebrated Rhodes King, proprietor of 7 world-class restaurants, couldn't bring himself to consume food within his own establishments. He'd been living in this personal hell for 8 months. 8 months of a diet so bland, it was practically colorless, all cooked by his own hand. 8 months of elaborate lies, narrow escapes, and the gnawing fear that his secret would be exposed, bringing the empire he'd built crashing down around him. He let out a long, weary sigh, his gaze drifting back to the street outside. That was the moment he noticed her. A young woman in a shockingly yellow apron that bore the words "Dave's Soul Bowls" in worn red lettering. She was positioned about 10 feet away, next to a food cart that had clearly seen better days, and she was staring at his disabled car as if it were a godsend from the heavens of German engineering. Her eyes were wide with a predatory, calculating glimmer. Rhodes knew that look intimately. It was the exact same expression people got right before they commented on the outrageous price of his watch. Just wonderful. Absolutely perfect. Another hustler already scheming up ways to get a piece of his fortune. He watched irritated as Paxton finally exited the car to inspect the engine, and after a moment's hesitation decided he might as well get out and stretch. Ashley Dave was certain her eyes were deceiving her. Or on second thought, maybe they weren't, because her luck had been absolute garbage for the last 4 months straight. It all started when her father, Julian, suffered a stroke, forcing her to take the reins of his cherished noodle cart. The moment she took over, loyal customers began to vanish, treating her like she was invisible simply because she wasn't the legendary Julian Dave. All while the medical bills stacked up, threatening to eclipse any sliver of hope she had left. But seeing this magnificent, outrageously expensive car break down directly in her line of sight on a Tuesday afternoon where she'd barely scraped together $37, this felt like a message from on high, a twist of fate. This was her opening. "Juno, you are not going to believe this," Ashley murmured into her phone, her eyes locked on the vehicle. Her best friend's voice came through, tinny and stressed. "Girl, what is it? I'm with a patient right now. He has a case of..." A ridiculously fancy car just broke down right in front of me. Ashley interrupted, having no desire for that particular mental image. "And so what?" "So a fancy car implies fancy people with fancy money. And that means a potential very lucrative customer. Ash, you are not allowed to just ambush people because they look wealthy." Ashley's lips curved into a wicked smile. "Oh, just watch me." She ended the call before Juno could inject any logic into the situation, because logic wasn't about to cover the $3,000 physical therapy bill that was due next week. The driver, a Caucasian man dressed in a full-blown chauffeur's uniform like he'd stepped right out of a movie, scrambled from the car, his face a mask of pure panic. He threw open the hood and glared down at the engine with a look of profound personal betrayal. And then the back door opened, and Ashley promptly forgot how to inhale. The man who stepped out and was Oh, sweet Lord. He wasn't just tall. He was built on a whole other scale, at least 6'5", with shoulders so broad they practically blocked the sun. His head was perfectly smoothly bald, gleaming under the light, and his deep brown skin had the rich color of dark, decadent chocolate. He was dressed in a charcoal gray suit that was probably worth more than her entire livelihood. Then he slipped off his sunglasses, and Ashley found herself staring into the most intense brown eyes she had ever seen. He also looked angry enough to set the world on fire. Yet even in his fury, as his expression shifted, she caught the faint hint of dimples that sent a jolt straight to her stomach. "Oh, he's mad," Ashley whispered to herself. "That right there is the 'someone is getting fired today' face." She could hear the chauffeur Paxton speaking in a frantic tone. "Sir, I'm calling for a mechanic and a backup car this instant. Don't worry, you're going to make the grand opening for Meridian. You have my word." "You have 40 minutes to make that a reality," the bald man declared, his voice a low, commanding rumble. Meridian, that name echoed in Ashley's mind. It was that ultra-exclusive new restaurant launching in the Gold Coast, the one bankrolled by some celebrity chef billionaire. And then, it clicked. Ashley's eyes shot wide with the sudden, jarring recognition. Rhodes King, the man behind the King Collective, Chicago's most dominant restaurant empire. His face was plastered all over the magazines in her doctor's waiting room. Chicago's most desirable bachelor, they called him. The man with the Midas touch for taste. A culinary prodigy turned corporate titan, and right now he was standing a mere 10 feet from her food cart, radiating an aura of pure, unadulterated fury. This wasn't just some wealthy client. This was the client, the final boss of rich customers. Ashley stole a glance at her reflection in the cart's stainless steel side, fluffed her two high ponytails, and pasted on her most dazzling five-star customer service smile. It was now or never. Rhodes was mentally drafting Paxton's termination letter, calculating the exact moment he could deliver it and still get to Meridian when a voice cut through his thoughts. "Excuse me." Rhodes pivoted toward the sound and saw the woman from the food cart walking toward him. Up close, she was absolutely breathtaking. She had curves that commanded a second glance, set against warm brown skin, and eyes the color of honey glinting with a dangerous mix of nerve and desperation. Her hair was pulled into two high ponytails, a style that should have seemed juvenile, but on her was utterly charming. She was also invading his personal space with the unshakable confidence of someone who had absolutely nothing to lose. "Is there something I can help you with?" Rhodes asked, deploying the tone that sent most people scrambling backward. She didn't even flinch. "Actually, I think I'm the one who can help you," Ashley countered, motioning toward her cart with a smile that could broker peace in the Middle East. "I happened to see you were having a bit of car trouble, and a thought crossed my mind that poor man must be stressed, he's probably starving, and he definitely needs something incredible to eat to salvage what's left of his day." Rhodes just stared at her, impassive. "I'm fine. Are you sure about that? Because your driver looks like he's about to have a panic attack, and you have that little vein pulsing in your forehead that screams you're about 3 seconds away from a full-blown meltdown." Paxton audibly choked on his own breath. Rhodes's eye began to twitch. "Miss Ashley Dave." And this, she patted the side of her cart as if it were a prize show dog, "is Dave's Soul Bowls, the undisputed home of the finest noodle bowls on the entire South Side. My father has been pouring his heart and soul into this cart for 26 years. We have people who travel from every corner of Chicago just for a taste of his food." Rhodes had no patience for this. "How lovely for you, I'm not interested. But you haven't even let me tell you what's on the menu." "I don't need to hear it. We have the Dave's special, perfectly cooked egg noodles, blackened chicken, fresh peppers, onions, and a secret sauce so good it'll make you forget your own name. We also have the veggie delight for those watching their figure. And for the daredevils, there's the spicy soul burner for people who want to feel the fire." Miss Dave Rhodes cut in his patience, wearing thinner than the delicate gold chain around her neck. "I appreciate the effort you're putting into this pitch, but I don't eat from food carts." The crushing irony of it all was not lost on him. Rhodes King, the man who could only stomach his own flavorless creations, turning his nose up at food from a humble cart. Ashley's bright smile never wavered, but a shadow passed through her eyes. Maybe it was indignation. Maybe it was hurt. "That's perfectly fine," she said, her voice strained just a little. "Most people with cars like that usually don't." She started to turn away, and Rhodes knew he should just let her leave. He should get back into his silent, broken-down car, get to Meridian, and continue to pretend the world of flavor didn't exist for him. But then just loud enough for him to hear, she muttered, even if it means they're missing out on the greatest food of their sad, sheltered lives. A single eyebrow arched on Rhodes' forehead. I'm sorry, what was that? Ashley whipped back around, her friendly vendor facade crumbling away completely. Look, sir, Mr. King. So she'd known who he was the entire time. I see what's happening here. You're a big deal. You're a very important man. You practically own the entire Chicago restaurant scene. You've got places you need to be, and I'm guessing people you need to fire. But that car of yours isn't going anywhere fast. And I'm just out here trying to make an honest living. So I'll make you a deal. One small sample, on the house. If you hate it, I will vanish, and you will never see me again. But if you love it, you pay me whatever you honestly believe it's worth. What do you say no? And why not because I said so? That isn't a real reason. It is the only reason that matters. Ashley planted her hands on her hips, and it was only then that Rhodes noticed the slight tremor in her fingers. This was more than just a simple sale for her. This young woman was desperate. Please, she whispered, and every ounce of the playful saleswoman was gone from her voice. Just one bite, that is all I am asking. Rhodes actually looked at her then. He truly saw her. He saw the faded apron, the cart that was in desperate need of a new coat of paint, and the war being waged between hope and fear in her honey brown eyes. And for some reason he hesitated. Maybe it was her desperation, a feeling he knew all too well after the last 8 agonizing months. Maybe he admired the way she was fighting so hard against impossible odds. Or maybe it was just a moment of insanity brought on by the overwhelming stress of the day. Or perhaps, just perhaps, it was a tiny, ridiculous flicker of hope that whispered, what if this time it's actually different? It never was. It was never different. But Paxton was still on the phone with the mechanic, and the prognosis was at least 30 minutes. Rhodes suddenly had time to burn. And this woman was looking at him as if he held the fate of her entire world in the palm of his hand. Fine. A voice that sounded suspiciously like his own finally said, just one. Rhodes stated, his voice leaving no room for argument. Ashley's face exploded with a joy so pure it was almost blinding. Seriously, that's all. After that, you're gone, he added. Agreed. She didn't just walk. She launched herself toward her cart. Rhodes observed her, a blur of practiced motion, as she snatched ingredients and sparked her small stove to life with a surgeon's precision. A moment later, Paxton materialized by his side. Sir, are you certain this is advisable, considering your circumstances? Paxton murmured. It's a single bite, Paxton. If it comes to it, I'll be discreet. And what if discretion wasn't an option? He'd already run the calculation. The sickness typically struck without warning, a violent wave just seconds after contact. If the reaction was severe, his exit would have to be immediate. A sudden urgent phone call would be the obvious excuse. It would be just one more fabrication in a life built on them for the past 8 months. 5 minutes passed, and Ashley reappeared carrying a small bowl that radiated a scent so divine it felt like a betrayal. His own stomach, meticulously conditioned to revolt against any food not prepared by his own hands, audibly protested. Traitorous organ, Dave's exclusive trial portion, she declared, presenting it to him like a sacred tribute. The sauce, that's my father's secret. You're looking at 4 generations of taste in that bowl. Rhodes accepted it, the ceramic warm against his palms. From a purely visual standpoint, it was flawless. The noodles were al dente, the chicken was charred to perfection, and the vegetables retained a vibrant, crisp edge. Its appearance was impressive, its aroma intoxicating, but his affliction was indifferent to aesthetics. As Rhodes raised the fork, he saw Ashley physically hold her breath. This is it, he thought, bracing for the familiar sequence, the sickening lurch, the body's violent refusal, the crushing shame. He placed the food in his mouth and was met with absolute silence. No wave of sickness, no constricting of his throat, no desperate impulse to expel it. He worked his jaw, deliberately anticipating the revulsion that was sure to follow. But it never arrived. Instead, his senses were flooded with notes of butter, intricate spices, and a deep, smoky undertone. The noodles were impossibly smooth, the chicken melted away, and the sauce was a complex masterpiece, rich but not overwhelming. It was exquisite. And his system, his enemy for so long, was welcoming it. A faint tremor ran through his hand as he guided the fork for a second bite, and then a third. What in God's name is going on? So, you enjoy it? Ashley's voice was a whisper of hope. Rhodes couldn't form a response. He simply continued one mouthful after another until nothing remained in the bowl. 8 brutal months, a monotonous prison of boiled rice and plain chicken. For 8 months, he'd been his own jailer, preparing flavorless sustenance because every alternative was a promise of agony. He'd spent 8 months wasting away his sanity, fraying his hope, dwindling to a flicker. And this young woman in a faded apron had just casually dismantled his entire reality. He looked up to find Ashley gaping at him, her eyes enormous. "You finished everything." Rhodes glanced at the empty vessel in his grip as if it were an artifact from another world. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" The question came out harsher than he meant it to. "From my father," she answered, a wave of pride in her voice. "Julian Dave. He was mastering this kitchen long before I came along. He taught me everything I know." "And where is he at the moment?" A shadow of pain flickered across her features. "He's in physical therapy," she said quietly. "He suffered a stroke 4 months ago, so I've been managing the business to keep things going." Rhodes gave a slow, deliberate nod, his thoughts churning. This defied all logic. It was a medical and psychological impossibility. He had consulted with 3 different therapists, 2 psychiatrists, and even a hypnotist. All of them had failed, and yet this simple meal had succeeded. "Sir, your replacement vehicle has arrived," Paxton announced, a note of undisguised astonishment in his tone at the sight of Rhodes consuming food. Rhodes lifted his gaze to a black SUV gliding to a stop behind his disabled sedan. The logical move was to depart, offer a polite thank you, and erase this encounter from his memory. But he was paralyzed, because for the first time in 8 agonizing months, a meal hadn't filled him with a profound desire to be dead, and he had to know the reason. Reaching for his wallet, Rhodes withdrew 5 immaculate $100 bills. Ashley's eyes nearly popped from their sockets. "Sir, that was on the house, a free taste." "I'm aware of what a sample is," Rhodes replied evenly. "Let's call this compensation for your effort and expertise." "But that's $500, she stammered. "I can do math. For a bowl that couldn't have cost more than $3 in ingredients." "Miss Dave," Rhodes said, and the shift in his tone commanded her full attention. "Are you accepting the payment, or shall I put it away?" The bills vanished into her hand with a speed that was almost comical. "I'll take the money. Yes, I absolutely want the money." "Thank you, sir. I can't thank you enough, Mr. King." The corner of Rhodes's mouth twitched, not a true smile, but the closest he'd come in a very long time. "I will be returning," he stated. Ashley just blinked. "Excuse me? Tomorrow, this same time, I'll expect another bowl to be waiting." With that, he pivoted and strode toward the waiting vehicle. He left Ashley rooted to the spot, clutching $500 and drowning in a sea of questions. Paxton ushered him into the SUV, his face a perfect mask of professional indifference. "Am I permitted to inquire, sir?" "You are not," Rhodes said flatly. "Paxton." "Sir, I want a complete workup on Julian Dave and his daughter. Ashley's history, their financial situation, leave no stone unturned." "May I be so bold as to ask the reason?" Rhodes gazed out the tinted window, his eyes fixed on the simple food cart and the young woman who had just achieved the impossible. "Because she may very well be the solution to a puzzle I was convinced had no answer." This set a new precedent, a pattern that held for the entire week. Precisely at noon each day, Rhodes King's immaculate SUV would appear at the curb beside Ashley's cart. His order was always the same 2 bowls, and each day he would hand her $500 before vanishing back into the vehicle. By the end of the 7th day, Ashley's earnings had reached $3,500. The money had already started to chip away at her dad's mountain of medical debt, and around the South Side, she was quickly becoming a local legend. "Hey, Ash." Mark from the barbershop hollered on the 8th day just as the black SUV glided to the curb. "Your sugar daddy's back for more." "He is not my boyfriend," Ashley yelled back, but a smile betrayed her. "Then what's he doing here every single day?" Mark shot back, a mischievous glint in his eye. "A good meal brings a man around once or twice," he teased. "After that, he's hungry for something else." A flush crept up Ashley's neck. "It's strictly professional." But the words felt hollow, a lie even to herself. The intensity in Rhodes's gaze when she passed him the container, that had nothing to do with business. It was something deeper. But on the 8th day, the routine shattered. The door of the SUV swung open and Rhodes himself stepped out, walking toward her cart. As Ashley instinctively reached for her supplies, he raised a hand to stop her. "Not today," he said, a knot of disappointment tightened in her chest. "Oh, okay, she stammered. Are you tired of the food?" "No." Rhodes paused, his expression conflicted as if wrestling with a decision. "Miss Dave," he began, his voice serious, "I have a proposal for you." "What sort of proposal?" "I want to retain your services as my private chef." Ashley stared, uncomprehending. "I'm sorry, what was that?" "A private chef, to cook for me exclusively. The compensation would be $15,000 a week." The ground seemed to fall away beneath her feet. 15,000, that's $60,000 a month. "Correct. Just to cook." Yes, her thoughts were a whirlwind. $60,000 a month. In a single month, she could wipe out her father's debt. She could secure the future of the cart. It was a figure that could rewrite her entire life. But life had taught her that nothing this good ever came without a price. "Why?" she asked, her voice sharp with suspicion. "Why offer that kind of money for a cook? You own 7 restaurants, all staffed with world-renowned chefs. So what's the real story here?" The muscle in Rhodes's jaw clenched. For a tense second, she was sure he was going to walk away. Instead, he spoke, his voice lowered to just above a whisper. "Let's just say my dietary requirements are particular, and your cooking seems uniquely suited to them." That has to be the most cryptic explanation I have ever heard. "It is all I can offer you at the moment." Ashley folded her arms across her chest, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. He was holding something back, something massive. "And if my answer is no, then I will continue to be your best customer," he replied smoothly. "And we will act as though this discussion never took place." Every rational part of her brain was screaming at her to refuse. A job offer from a secretive billionaire who refused to give a straight answer. It was the opening scene to a horror movie. But $60,000 a month. The freedom from her father's medical debt, a secure future. "I can't just leave my dad's cart," Ashley stated firmly. "It's his legacy." "You're barely scraping by," Rhodes countered. His tone wasn't cruel, just matter of fact. "I have been observing. Take away my orders, and you clear $50, maybe $70 on a good day. That is not a viable business." The words stung because they were the undeniable truth. "What if I cook for you in the mornings and then run the cart in the afternoons?" Ashley proposed a counteroffer. Rhodes paused, mulling it over. "I only require a midday meal. Mornings are acceptable. And I can walk away whenever I want, at any time. And eventually you'll tell me what's really going on." Rhodes's piercing gaze locked onto hers. Eventually. Ashley worried, her bottom lip, her mind racing. It was an insane proposition. It was deeply suspicious. This could either be the most catastrophic mistake of her life, or the single best thing that had ever happened to her. "Can I have some time to consider it?" she asked finally. The hard lines of his face seemed to ease just a fraction. "Of course, take as long as you require." He retrieved his phone, tapped the screen a few times, and then held it out for her to see. "This is my personal number. Send me a message with your decision." Ashley's eyes were fixed on the series of digits, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I should give you fair warning, however," Rhodes added, already turning back toward his vehicle. "I'm not a simple man to please. I expect a certain standard, and there are complexities involved." "What sort of complexities?" "The kind that we will cover in detail should you choose to accept the position." "That sounds incredibly ominous." His piercing gaze found hers again, and for a fleeting moment she saw something flicker within them, a deep, profound loneliness. "Miss Dave, the salary I'm offering is more than most individuals earn in a full year. I won't insult your intelligence by pretending this is a simple arrangement, but I give you my word I will never put you in a position that threatens your safety or your principles. This arrangement is about the food and nothing else." And the crazy part was, she believed him. Whether that was her gut talking or the astronomical sum he'd offered, she couldn't tell. "I'll be in touch," she managed. Rhodes gave a single sharp nod and was gone. Later that night, Ashley drove to her father's apartment complex. Julian insisted on living by himself, stubbornly refusing her offers to move and making do with a visiting health aide who checked on him twice daily. She found him in his worn-out recliner, engrossed in a cooking program. His face broke into a wide smile the moment he saw her. "Baby girl, what's the occasion?" Ashley sank onto the sofa and laid out the entire unbelievable story. She told him about the mysterious customer, the daily purchases, the life-changing offer. Julian absorbed every word, his good hand thoughtfully rubbing his chin. "This Mr. King," he said once she had finished. "Do you have a good feeling about him?" I think I do. I mean, I barely know the man, but he has always treated me with respect." And Daddy, $60,000 a month. I could eliminate all your medical debt. I could put the cart on solid ground. You could finally have a life of your own. Julian finished for her, his voice soft but firm. A lump formed in Ashley's throat. Daddy, Ashley, listen to me. I will always be grateful that you stepped up to run the cart for me. It means the world to me that you fought so hard for my dream. But honey, you're 24 years old. You should be out there building your own future, not sacrificing it for mine. This cart is part of my future too. Is it really, or is it just the responsibility you think you're supposed to carry? The question left Ashley speechless. Julian gently took her hand in his. If this job is a real opportunity, if it opens doors for you and makes you happy, you have to take it. The cart will be here when you get back. And if for some reason it's not, we'll figure that out too. Our legacy isn't tied to a food cart, baby. It's the passion and the skill that you take with you no matter where you end up. Tears burned at the corners of Ashley's eyes. When did you become so wise, she murmured. I've had a lot of quiet time for reflection lately, Julian said with that crooked smile of his. Now go on, call that man and accept before he offers the job to someone else. That evening, Ashley found herself just staring at RK's number on her phone. Finally, at 11:47 p.m., her thumbs began to move. Mr. King, this is Ashley Dave. I have considered your offer, and I have some conditions. First, I'm only available in the mornings. Second, I will continue to operate my own food cart in the afternoons. And third, I can resign at any time with no explanation required. Fourth, at some point, you have to tell me what this is really all about. If you can agree to these terms, then I accept. She hit send before she could lose her nerve. Her phone lit up not even 30 seconds later. Agreed. Report to this address tomorrow at 8 a.m. Dress casually. We must discuss the full scope of your position and the confidentiality it entails. RK, an address in the Gold Coast appeared below the text. Confidentiality. Oh man, Ashley whispered to the empty room. What have I gotten myself into? The following morning, Ashley stood before a towering monument of glass and steel, a luxury high-rise that made her feel painfully out of place in her simple jeans and Dave's Soul Bowls t-shirt. The doorman consulted his tablet, then directed her toward the private elevator to the penthouse. When its doors slid open, Paxton was there waiting. Miss Dave, you're punctual. Mr. King is in his study. Please follow me. The apartment was cavernous and intimidatingly sterile. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city below, while expensive minimalist furniture dotted the vast space, making it feel more like an art gallery than a place where someone actually lived. Paxton led her towards an office where a man sat behind a sprawling mahogany desk, his fingers flying across a laptop. He looked up as she stepped inside, and Ashley was once again floored by just how ridiculously handsome he was. Focus, Ashley. Miss Dave, thank you for making it. Rhodes stood and motioned to the chair opposite his desk. Please sit. We have a great deal to discuss before you can begin. As Ashley sat, a wave of anxiety washed over her. Rhodes closed his laptop with a quiet click and leaned forward, his piercing brown eyes locking onto hers. What I am about to tell you cannot leave this room. Do you understand me? Nobody can know. Not your family, not your friends, no one. I see. I need your word, Ashley. His use of her first name sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. You have it. Rhodes gave a curt nod, appearing to brace himself for something difficult. 8 months ago, an event occurred that changed the entire trajectory of my life. I've developed a condition they're not sure if it's psychological or physiological. That's left my doctors baffled. It renders me completely unable to eat any food prepared by another person. Ashley's eyes widened in disbelief. The moment I try, Rhodes continued. My body has a violent physical rejection. We're talking severe nausea, sometimes uncontrollable vomiting. It's so extreme that I can no longer dine at my own restaurants, attend business functions, or operate normally within an industry that is literally built around shared meals. Oh my God, Ashley breathed. Do you truly comprehend the implications? Rhodes asked, his voice tight with a carefully managed strain. I own the King Collective 7 premier restaurants. My entire brand is predicated on having the most refined and trusted palate in Chicago. I am meant to personally approve every dish on every menu, to taste every new creation, to serve as the ultimate guardian of quality. The devastating reality of his situation crashed down on her. But you can't, she whispered. I can't. Rhodes confirmed, his voice hollow. For 8 months, my entire diet has consisted of the blandest, most basic foods I can prepare myself. I've been forced to invent excuses, feign problems with suppliers, and avoid all public events. I've been lying to everyone in my life, my investors, my culinary staff, the food critics even my girlfriend. Because if this ever got out, he trailed off, but the conclusion hung in the air between them. It would destroy you, Ashley finished for him. It would decimate everything I have ever built. How can you trust a chef who refuses to eat his own food? That's what they would ask. Investors would flee. Competitors would tear my reputation to shreds. My customers would lose all faith in me. I would become a laughingstock. Ashley's mind was reeling. But you ate my food. You are the very first person whose cooking I've managed to consume since this whole nightmare started, Rhodes confessed. There was a raw vulnerability in his tone. The only one. Believe me, I have tried everything. Therapy, experimental medication, even hypnosis. Nothing has worked. Until I found you, but why me? I honestly don't know. But Ashley, this is about so much more than just cooking for me. You are saving my life, my reputation, my entire future. The sheer magnitude of his statement settled over her, taking her breath away. So that's what the $60,000 a month is about, she said, the pieces clicking into place. That explains the secrecy. That's why you have to understand. This is far from just a job. You are the only person standing between me and absolute ruin. Ashley sank back into her chair, trying to process it all. Rhodes King wasn't some rich eccentric who just happened to like her cooking. He was cornered. He was desperate. He was entrusting her with a secret that could completely demolish him. Does anyone else know? Ashley finally asked. Only Paxton, my head of security. So that's the entire list. Not even your girlfriend gets to know. A shadow crossed Rhodes's expression. Her least of all. And why is that? Sienna couldn't keep the secret if her life depended on it, he stated flatly. And she of all people doesn't get to see my vulnerabilities. What a strange thing to say about someone you're with, she thought. You know she's going to want to meet me, right? Ashley pointed out, if you suddenly acquire a private chef, she's bound to get curious. I'm aware that's why we need to set the ground rules from the very beginning. To the rest of the world, you are my chef, period. No one needs to be aware of my situation. So what's my cover story when someone asks why a man who owns a dozen restaurants needs his own private cook? Just say I have very particular dietary needs for a new training program. Ashley arched a brow. Training program? I'm a boxer, the story holds up. Okay, I can work with that. Let me just confirm I have all this right. Ashley began to tick off the points. I prepare your meals from Monday to Friday, just in the mornings. Your secret stays with me, no exceptions. I'll have to meet your girlfriend and act like this is a perfectly normal job, and for this I receive $60,000 a month. That is the arrangement. A realization dawned on her, whispered, but you're unable to. I can't, Rhodes admitted, his voice strained. For the past 8 months, my entire diet has consisted of the most flavorless things I could stomach making for myself. I've been dodging public appearances, inventing problems with food quality, manufacturing excuses. I've been deceiving everyone, my investors, my team, the critics, even the woman I'm supposed to be closest to. Because if the truth ever came out, his sentence hung in the air, unfinished but brutally clear. It would ruin you, Ashley said, understanding dawning. It would tear down every single thing I've worked for. What kind of restaurateur can't even eat the food from his own kitchens? That's the narrative they'd spin. My financial backers would vanish. My rivals would smell blood in the water. The public would lose all faith in my brand. I'd be a laughingstock. Ashley's thoughts were spinning. But you ate what I made. Since this whole nightmare began, Rhodes said, his voice laced with a raw vulnerability. You are the first person whose food I've managed to keep down. The only one. I've exhausted every option, therapy, prescriptions, even hypnosis. Nothing made a difference. And then you showed up. Why you? I have no idea. So you have to understand, Ashley, this is more than just cooking. You're saving my entire existence, my career, my reputation, all of it. The gravity of his words wrapped around her, heavy and real. So that explains the $60,000 a month, she murmured, the pieces clicking into place. That explains the absolute need for secrecy. And it's why I need you to see that this isn't some ordinary position. You are literally the only person preventing my entire world from collapsing. Ashley leaned back, letting it all sink in. This man, Rhodes King, wasn't just some wealthy client with a taste for her cooking. He was cornered, exposed, and he was placing a secret in her hands that had the power to annihilate him. Is there anyone else who knows about this? Ashley questioned. Just Paxton, my head of security. That's the entire list, not even my girlfriend. A shadow crossed his features. Her least of all. Why is that? Because Sienna couldn't keep a secret if her life depended on it. And she, of all people, doesn't get to see my vulnerabilities. What a strange thing to say about someone you love, she thought. She will absolutely want to meet me, Ashley insisted. When her boyfriend suddenly hires a private chef, her curiosity is going to peak. I'm aware. That's why we need to set the ground rules right now. To the rest of the world, you are my chef. End of story. No one needs to know about my situation. So what's my cover story when people ask why a man who owns a chain of restaurants needs his own private cook? Tell them I require a highly specialized diet for my training. Ashley arched a single questioning eyebrow. Training. I'm a boxer. The story is believable. All right, that works. Let me just run through the terms one last time. Ashley ticked off the points on her fingers. I'm on duty Monday through Friday morning meals only. Your condition remains a complete secret. I'll have to deal with your girlfriend. Act like this is all perfectly normal. And for all this, you'll pay me $60,000 every month. That's correct. And at some point, she added, her gaze steady, you're going to tell me what started all of this. Rhodes's jaw clenched almost imperceptibly. When I'm ready to talk about it, Ashley took him in this striking, influential, and deeply wounded man who was handing her the keys to his downfall. All right, she finally said, I'll do it. A wave of pure relief washed over Rhodes's face. Thank you. But Mr. King, Rhodes, there's something you should know. And what's that? My goal isn't just to feed you. I'm going to make you fall in love with food all over again. For the first time, a hint of his famous dimples appeared, and Ashley's heart did a treacherous little lurch. I'm counting on it, Miss Dave. So let's recap. Rhodes has a girlfriend, and our girl Ashley just signed up to guard his career-ending secret. You just know this is going to get complicated. Let me know in the comments if you're on Team Ashley, because you know she's the one who can truly heal this man. And you better hit subscribe, because you just know Sienna is about to bring the thunder. The temperature is rising in this kitchen, and I am living for the drama. Stick around, you don't want to miss a single second of what's coming. For the initial 3 days, Ashley felt like she was living in a fantasy she never dared to imagine. Working for Rhodes King was beyond anything she'd ever known. The kitchen in his penthouse was nothing short of a culinary heaven. It was equipped with top-of-the-line appliances stocked with ingredients that cost more than she made in a week, and she had total creative freedom. But the absolute highlight, it was watching Rhodes take that first bite. For her first official meal, Ashley decided on a taste of home, her dad's signature shrimp and grits elevated with a fiery andouille cream sauce. With trembling hands, she had arranged the dish just so, then carried it into Rhodes's study, only to find him immersed in a video call. He merely raised a single finger. Wait, he mouthed before diving right back into a monologue about profit margins and expansion strategies, leaving Ashley to linger awkwardly in the doorway. When the call finally ended, his eyes fell to the plate she had placed on his desk, and his entire body went rigid. Is everything all right? Ashley's voice was tight with worry, certain she'd gotten something wrong. Rhodes reached for his fork with a slow, deliberate motion, as if the food were a mirage he feared to disturb. He lifted a single bite to his lips, closing his eyes as he chewed, and Ashley witnessed the transformation. She saw the harsh lines on this formidable man's face dissolve, replaced by an expression that was part relief, part pure gratitude. It was the look of a man who'd been lost in a wasteland and had just been handed a canteen of cool fresh water. His eyes, when they opened, glistened with unshed tears. His voice was a raw whisper. Thank you. And in those two words, she could feel the crushing burden of 8 long months of anguish. A strange, unidentifiable emotion constricted Ashley's chest. You're welcome, she replied softly, and in that moment, a ritual was born. Ashley would create meals, and Rhodes would devour them as if each mouthful was a priceless gift. And then, so gradually, she almost missed it. They began to talk, not about his illness or the secret she was keeping, but about everything else under the sun. Why cooking? Rhodes had asked on the second day, in between bites of her jerk chicken and coconut rice. What made you choose this life? Ashley just shrugged, casually stirring a simmering pot of collard greens for his next meal. It wasn't really a choice. It was just what I was. That food cart was my whole world growing up. My dad had me on a step stool stirring his special sauce when I was only 5 years old. By the time I was 10, I was doing all the vegetable prep. And by 15, I could manage the entire cart by myself. He paused, thoughtful. Did you ever imagine a different path for yourself? There were times, Ashley confessed. I actually got into culinary school. Full ride. Rhodes's head snapped up. What stopped you from going? My dad. He needed me. Business at the cart was failing, and I couldn't bring myself to abandon him. So I stayed. He studied her. Do you ever wish you hadn't? I used to, she said, truly weighing the question. But I've come to believe that things unfold exactly as they're meant to. If I had gone away to school, I never would have been working that cart when your expensive car decided to die right in front of it. A ghost of a smile touched Rhodes' lips, his dimples making a rare appearance. Are we calling it fate or just terrible automotive upkeep? He let out a genuine laugh, a sound so unexpected it sent a ridiculous flutter through Ashley's stomach, a sensation that was becoming disturbingly frequent. On the fifth day, Rhodes broke his routine, appearing in the kitchen as she cooked instead of isolating himself in his office. What's on the menu tonight? He asked, his voice a low rumble as he leaned against the marble countertop. Ashley fought to ignore how unfairly handsome he looked, out of his suit dressed down in dark wash jeans and a black t-shirt that clung to his powerful arms. Stay on task, Ashley. Oxtails. She managed, her voice steadier than she felt as she checked the rich dark stew. Serving it with butter beans and rice, it's pure comfort. My mother used to cook oxtails, Rhodes said, his tone suddenly quiet and reflective. It was the first truly personal detail he had ever offered her. Oh, really? Ashley prompted gently. Yeah, every Sunday, she would start the pot in the morning and let it simmer for hours. The scent would just fill the entire house. It smelled like home. The use of the past tense hung in the air. She died 10 years ago. Cancer. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Rhodes just gave a slight nod, his gaze fixed on a distant memory. She was the one who taught me my way around a kitchen. Always said a man who can't feed himself is in no position to care for anyone else. She sounds like a very wise woman. She was, and she would have loved you. The words landed between them heavy and significant. The air crackled with an energy that Ashley was afraid to analyze. Why do you say that? She asked, her voice barely audible. Rhodes's deep brown eyes locked onto hers. Because you cook the way she did. With love. It's more than just technique, though you clearly have that. There's something more to it. Something that makes the food feel important. Ashley's heart began a frantic, acrobatic routine inside her ribs. It is important, she breathed. Food is how you show you care when you can't find the words. He held her stare for what felt like an eternity, and the professional line between them dissolved into a thick, palpable tension. And then his phone buzzed on the counter, shattering the spell. Rhodes glanced at the screen, and his face hardened into an expression she couldn't decipher. Was it resignation? Or maybe dread? I have to get this, he said, turning and walking out of the kitchen. Ashley couldn't help but overhear his side of the conversation. Sienna, yes, I know what we had planned. I've just been swamped. Tomorrow night, fine, I'll be there. The girlfriend, of course. The one who was so absent from his life that Ashley constantly forgot she even existed. Ashley turned back to her oxtails, focusing with an intensity she didn't feel, trying to ignore the sudden, sharp ache in her chest. Later that evening, just as Ashley was getting ready to head home, Paxton materialized in the kitchen entrance. Miss Dave, Mr. King asked me to let you know his girlfriend will be stopping by tomorrow, around 2 in the afternoon. He requests that you have tea and some refreshments prepared. Right, of course. Not a problem. Paxton paused, a rare moment of hesitation. He also wanted me to give you a gentle reminder about the non-disclosure agreement. I haven't forgotten. I'm just the cook who caters to his special dietary needs. Precisely. Then Paxton's usually stoic expression seemed to soften almost imperceptibly. For whatever it's worth, Miss Dave, you've accomplished more for him in 5 days than an army of specialists managed in 8 months. He's eating again. His stress levels are down. You have been a profoundly positive influence on him. A comforting warmth bloomed in Ashley's chest. Appreciate the heads up, Paxton. It's good to know what I'm walking into. But a cautionary note in his voice made her press him. So what's the story with Sienna? Paxton's features settled into a carefully neutral mask. She's polished, he said, choosing his words with surgical precision. Keenly aware of social hierarchies. Image is everything to her. It was the most diplomatic description Ashley had ever heard for. A total nightmare. Can't wait, Ashley murmured, her voice laced with sarcasm. The following afternoon, as Ashley was meticulously arranging tea sandwiches and delicate petit four on Rhodes's dining table, the front door clicked open, followed by a voice sharp enough to slice through the silence. Rhodes, darling, I've arrived, peeking around the doorframe. Ashley saw a woman so flawlessly put together, she looked less like a person and more like a high-fashion advertisement come to life. Sienna Vale was a vision of curated perfection, tall, impossibly slender, with a cascade of straight, dark hair that screamed of expensive salon appointments. She was dressed in a white designer pantsuit that likely cost more than 3 months of Ashley's rent, and tucked under her arm was a handbag Ashley recognized from a downtown billboard. An Hermes with a price tag that she knew was a staggering 5 figures. Her gaze swept across the penthouse with an air of casual ownership, as if she were mentally redecorating. Just then, Rhodes emerged from his office, and Sienna instantly draped herself over his arm. "Baby, I've missed you so much," she cooed, her voice adopting a cloying little girl quality that set Ashley's teeth on edge. "You've been so distant. You're not avoiding me, are you?" "I've been busy, Sienna. You know that. Too busy for your own girlfriend." Sienna's lower lip jutted out in a pout so practiced it looked cartoonish. "But we haven't gone to dinner in 2 weeks." "I told you," he said, his voice flat, "I'm locked in on my training regimen. The nutritionist has me on a strict—" "Oh, speaking of food." Sienna's eyes suddenly lit up with a predatory gleam. "Where is this new chef I've heard so much about?" "Showtime," Ashley thought, stepping into the dining room with a bright, professional smile she didn't feel. "That would be me. I'm Ashley." "Day." Sienna's gaze raked over Ashley from head to toe, a clinical, dismissive scan of her casual jeans, her worn Soul Bulls t-shirt, and her simple twin ponytails. The appraisal was instantaneous, and the verdict was clear. "Oh," Sienna breathed, a smile forming on her lips that was utterly devoid of warmth. "You're just so young and cute." 24. Ashley replied, her tone deliberately cheerful. "Practically an infant." Sienna laughed, a sound like splintering ice. "Rhodes, she's simply adorable. Wherever did you find her?" "Miss Day came with the highest recommendations." Rhodes stated, his expression giving nothing away. "Her father built one of the most successful culinary businesses on the South Side from the ground up." "The South Side," Sienna repeated, the words dripping with condescension, as if he'd just named a garbage dump. "How colorful." Ashley's smile remained plastered on her face, but a dangerous glint entered her eyes. "I prepared afternoon tea for you both," Ashley announced, gesturing towards the table. "Please have a seat." Sienna glided into a chair and immediately began to rearrange Ashley's meticulously plated sandwiches. "How very rustic," she commented, and it was definitively not a compliment. "Rhodes, darling, are you certain this is the kind of thing you should be eating? Think of your image. You're Rhodes King. You need a chef with a Michelin star, not—" She gestured vaguely at Ashley, someone who learned her craft from a food truck. A muscle in Ashley's jaw clenched. Rhodes saw it. "Sienna," he said, his voice firm, "Ashley's food is precisely what I need right now." "But surely—" "Her cooking is perfect." Rhodes cut in, his gaze locking with Ashley's. "I wouldn't change a single thing." A wave of warmth and gratitude washed over Ashley. Across the table, Sienna's perfectly sculpted features tightened the change so subtle it was almost invisible. "Of course, darling. I'm only looking out for your best interest." She then turned that icy smile on Ashley. "You simply must give me the recipe for these little cucumber sandwiches. I'm sure my personal chef would be fascinated to attempt them." "Oh, they're quite simple, really," Ashley replied, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "All it takes is quality ingredients and a genuine desire to make something good." Rhodes choked on a cough that sounded suspiciously like a laugh. Sienna's smile fractured, becoming even more rigid. "Well, I'm certain you do the best you can with what you have to work with." The next 30 minutes were an education in all things Sienna Vale. She was a master of the name drop, casually mentioning A-list celebrities in five-star restaurants as if she were discussing the weather. She commanded Rhodes's complete attention, yet her own was divided, her eyes flicking down to her phone every 3 minutes like clockwork. She probed Rhodes about his business dealings and investment portfolio with a thinly veiled avarice that made Ashley's skin crawl. And through it all, she peppered the conversation with little digs, each one a perfectly aimed dart meant to put Ashley in her place. "Rhodes, you absolutely must bring your chef to the charity gala next month. I'm sure she's never experienced anything quite like the Palmer House ballroom." Another time, "Ashley, do you ever shop at Target?" I just adore their athletic wear, so wonderfully affordable. And later, it must be so quaint working with such basic ingredients. Rhodes's restaurants use such exotic components. I doubt you've even heard of most of them. Through it all, Ashley maintained her professional veneer, a silent observer in the crossfire. But the tension was coiling in Rhodes's shoulders, his jaw tight. Finally, Sienna rose from her chair. Well, I really must be going. I have a fitting for my gala gown. Rhodes, you're picking me up at 7 on Friday. Friday, Rhodes repeated, a confused frown creasing his brow. The gallery opening, we've had that on the calendar for a month. Rhodes's jaw clenched. Sienna, I already told you, no public events for me right now. My training schedule. Your training schedule. Sienna snapped, her voice losing all its manufactured sweetness and turning sharp as steel. That's been your excuse for everything lately. No dinners, no galas, no time for us. I'm beginning to believe you're actively avoiding me. I'm not. Then prove it. Friday at 7, otherwise I might start thinking there's a deeper reason you're ashamed to be seen with me. It wasn't an invitation, it was an ultimatum. Rhodes' face turned to stone. Fine, 7. A triumphant smirk spread across Sienna's face. She planted a kiss on his cheek, leaving a smear of red. That's my man. Oh, and Ashley. Ashley glanced up from where she was clearing the tea service. Yes. Make sure Rhodes is eating properly between now and Friday. I need him in top form for the cameras. She spoke of him like a prized racehorse she was grooming for the winner's circle. The moment Sienna was gone, the penthouse felt 20 degrees warmer, the air suddenly easier to breathe. Rhodes wiped the lipstick from his skin, his irritation barely contained. I apologize for her, he said, turning to Ashley. She can be a lot. A lot, Ashley echoed, her tone flat. That's certainly one way to put it. She isn't always like this. Ashley just lifted an eyebrow. Are you really sure about that? Rhodes opened his mouth to argue to defend the woman he was with, but then he seemed to reconsider. She's just been under a lot of pressure. Right. Her family's incredibly influential. There are certain expectations. Ashley, if you have something to say, just say it. What I'm thinking Ashley began choosing her words deliberately, is that you're a grown man. You can be with whoever you choose, and I'm just the one who cooks your meals. But if I were involved with someone who spoke to my staff the way she just addressed me, and who talked about me as if I were just an accessory to their lifestyle, well, I'd have to start asking myself some serious questions. Rhodes just stared at her, his expression unreadable. You really don't pull your punches, do you? You pay me to make food, not to flatter you. A faint smile touched his lips, revealing those dimples again. Fair point. Ashley turned to go, but stopped at the door. Rhodes, yes. For whatever it's worth, you deserve to be with someone who values you for who you are, not for how you'll look in their photographs. She was gone before he could formulate a reply, but she felt his gaze on her back all the way to the elevator. Over the next week, a toxic little ritual began. Sienna would appear at the penthouse completely unannounced. She always materialized right when Ashley was in the middle of cooking, armed with a flimsy excuse about just being in the area. And she always stared at Ashley with the predatory focus of a hawk tracking a field mouse. That Tuesday, she swept in as Ashley was plating lunch. Oh, you're still around, Sienna remarked, her tone making it sound as if Ashley were a persistent bad smell. Still on the payroll, Ashley answered brightly. Rhodes's lunch is almost ready. You know, I've been meaning to mention, Sienna mused, inspecting her flawless nails. Rhodes should really think about upgrading his culinary situation. I know a handful of graduates from the best schools who would die for an opportunity like this. People with actual training, with pedigrees. How thoughtful of you to be looking out for him. I'm always looking out for Rhodes. It's what a devoted girlfriend does. Sienna's gaze hardened, locking onto Ashley's. We protect our men. We make sure there are no inappropriate distractions. And there it was, the real motive behind these little pop-ins. I'm certain Rhodes appreciates having someone so invested in his well-being. Ashley said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Oh, I'm sure he does. It's vital to know who truly belongs in his world and who is just passing through. Ashley offered a serene smile. It's funny you should say that. Rhodes was telling me the exact same thing about his ingredients. Some are just temporary, trendy, dazzling things that only look good on the surface. But the real substance, the magic, that comes from the things that are authentic, the things that might not be flashy but have real depth. Sienna's eyes narrowed into slits. Are you actually comparing me to an ingredient? Oh, heavens no, Ashley replied, her expression a mask of innocence. I'd never do that. Food actually has nutritional value. Rhodes chose that precise instant to walk into the room. Sienna, I didn't realize you were coming over. I had to surprise my baby, didn't I? Sienna's voice melted into a sugary confection. And I had to check that your chef was taking proper care of you. She is, Rhodes confirmed, his eyes meeting Ashley's with a glimmer that was dangerously close to amusement. Ashley's cooking is precisely what I've needed. The smile on Sienna's face became a thin, tight line. Well, I suppose it's adequate for a simple weekday meal. But Rhodes, darling, for the gala Friday night, we absolutely must eat at a proper restaurant beforehand. Aaliyah, perhaps, or I can't eat out before a big event, Sienna, Rhodes cut in. You know, my dietary restrictions are insane right now. Honestly, Rhodes, this whole obsessive training diet is getting so tedious. Sienna snapped, the carefully constructed facade finally starting to crack. You're making us miss out on absolutely everything. Sienna, it's not. No, I'm being serious. Do you have any idea how mortifying it is to constantly be making up excuses for why my boyfriend refuses to eat in public? People are starting to whisper. Ashley slipped away as quietly as she could, but their raised voices followed her into the kitchen. Whispers, that's what you're concerned about. Yes, our image matters, Rhodes. A concept you of all people should appreciate. You're in the restaurant business, which is the entire reason I have to stick to this regimen. I am developing a new menu that requires strict, oh please spare me the elaborate lies. Just admit you don't want to spend any time with me anymore. Ashley focused on the delicate arrangement of food on the plate as the shouting match escalated. It was deeply uncomfortable, but the sprawling penthouse offered little in the way of soundproofing. That's not fair, Sienna. Isn't it? You've been so cold for months. You barely even touch me now. You're with your chef more than you are with me. Sienna, she prepares my food. It's her job. Oh, is that all she's doing? The air in the room went still, charged with something ugly. Spell it out for me. What are you trying to say? His voice had turned to ice. I'm saying you seem awfully comfortable having that pretty young thing in your kitchen all day, every day. You're crossing a line, am I? Because from my perspective, the whole thing looks incredibly suspicious. Why her, Rhodes, out of everyone? Why some girl from a food truck? What makes her so special? His hand froze mid-motion over the plate. It was a fair question, one she'd been asking herself for weeks. She is a uniquely skilled chef who can accommodate my strict dietary needs, Rhodes said through a clenched jaw. It's nothing more than that. Even knowing it was a cover, each word felt like a fresh twist of a knife in Ashley's chest. Then prove it, Sienna demanded. Get rid of her. Hire someone else, someone older, someone less attractive. I am not firing an employee to manage your insecurity. Insecurity. I'm being perfectly rational. You're the one who's being deceitful. Ashley had heard more than enough. She finished plating, grabbed the dish, and walked it to Rhodes' office, deliberately taking the long route to avoid the battlefield that was the living room. She placed the plate on his desk and turned to make her escape. Ashley, wait. She pivoted to see Rhodes leaning in the doorway, looking utterly drained. I am so sorry you had to overhear that, he said, his voice low. It's okay. It's not my place. She had no right to speak about you like that. She's your girlfriend. It's natural for her to be protective. I get it. Rhodes took a step closer and Ashley felt the air vanish from her lungs. You know she's wrong about why I hired you. Is she, though? The question tumbled out before Ashley could stop it. You hired me for a very specific skill that nobody else has. That's special, isn't it? That's not what I... Rhodes paused as if wrestling with his own words. You're not just a solution to my condition. No, you're here because you are incredibly talented. You're here because you have a profound passion for what you do. Because every dish you prepare feels like it was made with genuine care for the person eating it. Ashley's heart was hammering against her ribs. Rhodes. Sienna doesn't see that. Sienna doesn't see a lot of things. He was standing so close now that Ashley could count the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Close enough to breathe in his cologne, an expensive woodsy scent that made her want to close the remaining distance between them. This was a dangerous territory. He was unavailable. You should probably eat before your lunch gets cold, Ashley said, forcing herself to step away. Rhodes looked like he wanted to protest, but instead he just nodded. Thank you for everything. Ashley fled the penthouse that day in a state of emotional turmoil. Her attraction to Rhodes was a blazing, undeniable fact. But he was her employer. He was in a relationship, and she was meant to be a professional. Girl, she thought you are in serious trouble. Juno said that night when Ashley called her desperate to unload. I knew it. You're developing feelings for your billionaire boss. I know. The one with the girlfriend I know, Juno. So what's your next move? Ashley groaned into her pillow. Nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. I will cook his meals, cash my paycheck, and stay in my own lane. Huh? And how's that strategy working for you? Horribly. He's just so frustratingly perfect. He's intelligent and a little broken, and Juno, he has dimples. Dimples. Oh, heaven help us all. And the expression on his face when he eats my food, it's something I can't even begin to describe. Well, that sounds intense. You are completely hooked. But I can't act on it because of Sienna, the reigning ice queen. She's truly awful, Juno. A genuinely terrible person. She parades him around like a prize and is completely phony and possessive. And yet she's still his girlfriend. Ashley confirmed with a sigh of defeat. So I'm just supposed to watch him be with someone who doesn't deserve him and act like I'm fine with it, or, Juno said, drawing out the word. You could just let this whole thing play out. In my experience, the trash eventually takes itself out. It means that people like Sienna almost always end up sabotaging themselves. Just be patient. Keep being brilliant. And if an opportunity arises, be ready. Ashley didn't have to be patient for very long. Listen up. The electricity between Rhodes and Ashley is off the charts, and Sienna is on the verge of a meltdown. Comment Team Ashley down below if you believe she should go after her man. And be sure to hit that subscribe button because Sienna is about to elevate crazy to an art form. You do not want to miss what is coming next. The situation reached its breaking point on Friday. Rhodes was scheduled to escort Sienna to an exclusive art gallery opening. Ashley had just finished preparing weekend meals and was about to leave when Sienna appeared 2 hours early and by herself. He's not here, Ashley said, confused. I thought you were supposed to meet him at 7. I need to speak with you, Sienna said, breezing past Ashley into the penthouse as if she owned it. Woman to woman. Oh, fantastic, Ashley muttered. Sienna turned, crossing her arms. I want your resignation. Ashley blinked, stunned. Excuse me? Quit. Leave. Find a different position. I'm even willing to assist you. I have contacts in this city who would hire you in a heartbeat, but I need you away from Rhodes. Does Rhodes know you're here asking me this? Rhodes has no idea what he needs at the moment, but I do. And what he doesn't need is some little chef with a crush complicating his entire life. A hot flush crept up Ashley's neck. I have no idea what... Oh, please, Sienna snapped. I'm not blind. I see the way you watch him. He's just my boss, and he's my boyfriend. The last of Sienna's composure finally shattered. We have been together for 2 years, 2 entire years. Then you breeze in here with your charming little ponytails and your home-cooked meals, and suddenly he's too busy for me. And you're telling me that's not your fault. You're in his home every single day cooking for him, sharing stories, making him laugh. Do you have any idea how long it's been since I've seen him look at me with that kind of light in his eyes? A pang of pity shot through Ashley, much to her own surprise. Maybe you should be having this conversation with him instead of coming here to corner me. This isn't a threat. This is me giving you a graceful exit before things turn nasty. And if I don't take it, Sienna's eyes turned to ice, then I will systematically ruin your life. I know people, Ashley. That pathetic little food cart you're so proud of, I can shut it down with a single phone call. I can blacklist you from every respectable kitchen in Chicago. You can get out. Both women whipped around. Rhodes was standing in the archway, his face a mask of cold fury. Rhodes, honey, I heard every word. Rhodes' voice was chillingly low. You came into my house uninvited for the sole purpose of intimidating someone under my protection. I was not intimidating her. I was just... Leave, Sienna, Rhodes commanded. Her face crumbled. You're picking her. Some girl you hired 2 weeks ago. Over me. I'm picking basic decency over someone who bullies people I care about. The phrase, people I care about, made Ashley's heart stop. This is insane. Sienna's voice pitched into a near scream. For months you've been distant, avoiding my calls, making excuses, hiding things. And now I find you here defending her. Sienna, it's over between us. It's been over for a longer time and I was just too much of a coward to say it. So you're dumping me for her. I'm ending this because you just revealed your true colors, and frankly, I can't stand the person I'm looking at right now. Sienna's gaze darted between them, her features a ruin of fury and pain. Mark my words, you will both live to regret this. She spun on her heel and stormed out the door, slamming with enough force to make the penthouse windows vibrate. A heavy silence descended. Ashley stood, froze in her mind, a blank slate of shock. She couldn't form a thought, couldn't even draw a proper breath. Rhodes, she breathed. You ended it with her. Yes, because of me. No, because of who she is. Rhodes corrected her gently. But you were the final push. I can't be that person. Ashley stumbled back, fumbling for her bag. This is all wrong. You were with her for 2 years. You don't just detonate a relationship like that over what? Rhodes closed the distance between them, his gaze pinning her in place. Over some chef I brought in 2 weeks ago. You're so much more than that to me. No, I'm not. That's all I am. And now I'm the homewrecker. I can't do this. I won't be that person. Words tumbled out of Ashley in a panicked rush, the room starting to feel like it was shrinking. I quit, she blurted out. Rhodes went rigid. You what? I quit. This entire situation it's too much. It's a mess. I am so sorry about your health, truly I am. But I refuse to be the reason your life unravels. Ashley, you're not. I'm sorry, Rhodes. I have to go. She practically bolted for the elevator, hot tears blurring her vision. She could hear him calling her name from behind her, a desperate edge to his voice. But she didn't dare look back, because she knew deep down that if she stopped, if she turned and saw the devastation on his face, all her resolve would crumble. And she had to leave. It was the only right thing to do. Or so she told herself over the next 2 weeks, which were unequivocally the most miserable of her life. She poured every ounce of her energy back into the food cart, working herself to exhaustion to keep from thinking about Rhodes King alone in his sky-high apartment. And she tried to banish the memory of how he'd looked at her as if she held the answer to a question he'd stopped asking long ago. For a moment, business was booming. Rumors had circulated about the girl who cooks for the reclusive Rhodes King, and the curious flocked to her cart. For about a week, Ashley was making great money. And then the tide turned. Strange complaints started trickling in, customers claiming they'd found hair, even specks of dirt in their food. Then on day 12, a woman let out a blood-curdling scream, claiming a roach was swimming in her noodle bowl. Ice flooded Ashley's veins. That's impossible, Ashley insisted. I keep this cart immaculate. I know what I saw, the woman shrieked, her voice carrying for what felt like 3 city blocks. There was a roach, a giant roach. It took less than an hour for the health department to arrive. Miraculously, they discovered 3 more roaches, all dead, tucked away in spots that perfectly mimicked a widespread infestation. They shut her down on the spot. Ashley could only stand on the curb watching in numb horror as the inspectors wrapped her father's legacy in red violation tape. Her entire world was collapsing around her. It makes no sense, she sobbed to Juno later that night in her tiny apartment. I scrubbed that cart from top to bottom every single night. I've never ever had a pest problem. Not once. Could someone have planted them? Juno asked softly. Who on earth would do that? Ashley froze, the question hanging in the air. Sienna's parting words echoed in her memory. You will both live to regret this. That venomous promise. Just then, Ashley's phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed on the screen. She nearly ignored it, but some instinct told her to answer. Hello. Hello, Ashley, came the silky, triumphant voice. It was Sienna. I was just calling to see how business is going. Ashley's grip on the phone tightened until her knuckles were white. What did you do? Me, why, I didn't do a thing, Sienna purred. I just happened to mention to a few influential friends that I'd heard some rather unsettling rumors about the sanitation at a certain little food cart. And I'm sure your little friends couldn't resist doing their own digging. You set me up with those bugs. Is that what you think? Go ahead, try and prove it. Because from my perspective, the city just padlocked your business over a roach infestation. That's your problem, darling, not mine. You call it insanity. I call it being fiercely protective. There's a world of difference. I gave you a warning. I told you exactly what would happen if you didn't keep your distance from Rhodes. You ignored me, so I did what you wanted. I quit, I walked away, and I tore his heart to pieces to make you happy. Sienna's voice was pure venom. Do you have any idea what you did to him? He's barely eating. He's a complete wreck. And it's all your fault for making him believe he could have something that was never his. Ashley's heart seized. What are you even talking about? Rhodes and I are getting back together. He called me just yesterday pleading for another shot. He told me he'd made a terrible mistake, that I'd been right about you from the very beginning. Each word felt like a physical blow. I don't believe you. Think whatever you want, but you will stay away from him. Because next time, I won't just come for your little food cart. I'll come for your father's medical coverage, your credit score, your entire future. I have the money and the will to do it. Don't you dare push me. The line went dead. Ashley just sat there, the phone still in her hand, trembling with a toxic mix of fury, pain, and utter disbelief. Rhodes had actually called Sienna. He was taking her back. No, it was impossible. It made no sense after everything they'd been through. But a terrifying thought crept in. What if it was true? Ashley's eyes fell to the mountain of her father's hospital bills piled high on the coffee table. She saw the eviction notice that had shown up the day before, a direct result of losing her income from the cart. She had lost absolutely everything, and for nothing. Fighting back a sob, Ashley dialed her father. When she got to his apartment, Julian was in the middle of physical therapy, his home health aide guiding him through resistance band exercises. The second he laid eyes on Ashley's face, he knew. Baby girl, what is it? What happened? Ashley let it all pour out, the J. Rhodes, the poison from Sienna, the planted roaches, her business being shut down, the threatening call. Before she was even finished, she was crying so hard she could barely draw a breath. I ruined everything, Daddy. I ruined it all. Julian wrapped his good arm around her, his left side still lagging, but his grip firm enough to be an anchor in her storm. You didn't ruin a thing, he said, his voice iron. That woman is poison, and poison is going to do what it does. But you listen to me, Ashley. Julian used his good hand to cup her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. You do not give up. Do you hear me? I didn't raise you that way. You are a Dave. We do not let the world break us. But Daddy, the cart is just metal and wheels. You are its heart, and a heart like yours doesn't stop beating that easy. Just then, Ashley's phone buzzed, an unknown number. Her first instinct was to ignore it, but Julian gave a slight nod. Answer it. Ashley swiped to answer. Hello? Am I speaking with Ashley Dave? The woman's voice was crisp and official. Yes. This is Linda Martinez with the Chicago Department of Health. I'm calling in reference to the investigation into your food cart. Ashley's stomach plummeted. Yes. Well, we finished our preliminary review, and I wanted to let you know that we discovered several irregularities. What kind of irregularities? The insects found on your premises were all of a single species, German cockroaches, and all of them had expired very recently. Within the last 24 to 48 hours, to be specific. We also found zero evidence of a genuine infestation, no egg casings, no droppings, no signs of nesting. It strongly suggests the specimens were placed there intentionally. A spark of hope ignited in Ashley's chest. Are you serious? So we're saying your cart is cleared to reopen pending one final walkthrough. We also reviewed your cart's entire inspection history. 4 years of perfect scores. This incident just doesn't align with your record as a genuine health code violation. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. We are also launching an inquiry into the person who filed the complaint. Do you have any idea who might have a motive to sabotage your business? Ashley thought of Sienna, of her wealth, her connections, her chilling threats. I might have an idea, Ashley said, her voice slow and deliberate, but I'd need to find proof by then. Understood. Well, if anything comes to mind, please let us know. We don't take kindly to false reports. After she hung up, Ashley felt a fundamental shift deep inside her. Sienna had picked a fight with the wrong woman. She immediately dialed the number Sienna had used. Sienna picked up on the second ring. Well, calling me back so soon to beg. Actually, Ashley began, her voice now steady as ice. I'm calling to give you a heads up. Oh, really? And what's that? I was trying to be decent. I stayed away from Rhodes because I refused to be the other woman. I respected that he was with you, but you just showed me your true colors. So I'm done playing nice. You wanted a war. You've got one because I am going to make sure Rhodes sees exactly the kind of person you are. And when he finally sees the real you, the petty, manipulative, vindictive person you are, he's also going to see the real me. Someone who gives a damn about him, not his bank account or his last name. Sienna let out a cold laugh. You honestly think you can compete with me? Oh, please. I don't have to compete. All I have to do is be myself, then we'll let him decide who he wants. He's already chosen me, you delusional little fool. He called me. He wants me. Then you've got absolutely nothing to worry about, right? The The sound of Sienna's sharp inhale was pure fury. "You will stay away from him," she snarled through the phone. Ashley's voice was ice. "And if I don't, what are you going to do, plant more vermin? Make another pathetic threat, by all means keep talking. I'm recording every second of this. Because the health department is just dying to know who's been filing bogus complaints." The silence on the other end was deafening. You're recording this," Sienna finally choked out. "Every last syllable. So this is how it's going to be. You are going to leave me the hell alone, and you're going to stay away from my cart. Most importantly, you will let Rhodes decide for himself who he wants in his life. And as for you and me, well, may the best woman win." Ashley ended the call, her hands trembling, but her mind clear and firm. Julian beamed at her, his face filled with pride. "That's my girl." "I can't believe I just did that," she breathed. "I can, Julian said. "You've got your mother's fire." Just then her phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with his name, Rhodes. Her stomach plummeted. With a shaky hand she answered. "Hello, Ashley." He sounded exhausted, his voice gravelly. "We need to talk." "Rhodes, I can't do this right now." "Please," he cut in, his voice raw. "Just, can I see you?" "I really don't think that's a good idea." "Ashley, I haven't eaten in 2 weeks. I can't sleep. My mind is a complete fog. I can't function without you." Her breath hitched in her chest. "Rhodes," and before you say a word, he rushed on, "this stopped being about the food a long time ago. It wasn't about the food even that first week. It was you. But you have a girlfriend." "No," he said, his voice firm. "I don't. Sienna and I are over. It's completely finished. Anything she told you is a flat-out lie. She told me you called her begging her to come back. The only reason I called her was to demand she leave you alone after I found out what she was doing. That was the entire conversation. The only person I want to talk to, the only person I want, period, is you. I just need you to tell me I haven't completely blown it. Please." Tears welled in Ashley's eyes, spilling silently down her cheeks. "Rhodes, I'm a disaster," she choked out. "My cart's been shut down. I'm about to get evicted. My entire life is imploding." "Then let me help," he said instantly. "Let me be there with you. Just come back to me, Ashley. Please." "But why?" she whispered. "Why do you want me back this much?" The line went quiet for a long moment before he spoke again, his voice barely a murmur. "Because somewhere between that first bowl of noodles and the last dish you ever cooked for me, I fell completely in love with you. And I know how fast this is, and God knows it's complicated. But it's the truest thing I know. I love you." The world seemed to stop turning, everything fading into the sound of his voice. What? "I love you," he repeated, stronger this time. "I love your passion, your fire. The way you cook as if every single plate is a love letter to the world. I love the way you stood up to Sienna and how you make me feel like a man, not just a brand or a collection of restaurants. I can't lose that. I can't lose you." Ashley's gaze drifted to her father, who was nodding at her, his expression full of encouragement. "Tell him," Julian mouthed silently. Ashley drew a shuddering breath. "I fell for you too. I tried so hard not to told myself every reason why I shouldn't. But it didn't matter. I fell so hard." A relieved sigh came from his end. "Then let me fix this. Let me help you with the cart, with your dad's medical bills. All of it. This isn't about you being my chef. It's about you being mine." A wet, choked laugh escaped her lips. "That sounds incredibly possessive." "I'm well aware," he said, his voice dropping. "Is it working?" "Maybe a little." "Ashley Dave," he said, using her full name. "Please come back to me." She glanced around the cramped apartment, her eyes landing on her father's hopeful smile. For the first time in weeks, the future didn't seem so dark. "Yes," she breathed into the phone. "Yes, I'll come back." "Thank God," he exhaled. "Tell me where you are. I'm on my way." After giving him her address, it felt like only 30 minutes had passed before a sharp knock echoed on her door. She pulled it open, and there he was, Rhodes King, looking like he had been dragged through hell and back. His face was stubbled, his eyes weary, and he was dressed in a simple t-shirt and sweats instead of his designer suits. To her, he had never looked more handsome. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," he answered. An entire conversation passed between them in the silence that followed. Then he closed the distance in a single step, cupping her face with both hands and crushing his lips to hers with a desperate, starved hunger. She dissolved against him, her fingers twisting into the fabric of his shirt as she poured all her pain and longing into the kiss. When they finally surfaced for air, gasping, he rested his forehead against hers. "I have a proposition for you," he said, his voice still rough with emotion. "What kind of proposition? You move back in, you cook for me. I'll help you get your business back on its feet, and we just see what happens with us. No more secrets, no more drama. Just you and me figuring it out. And Sienna. Sienna is my problem to handle. She will never bother you again. I swear it." Ashley searched his eyes and found only raw honesty, affection, and a glimmer of hope she hadn't seen in weeks. "Okay," she whispered, "deal." He leaned in and kissed her again, but this time it was slow and sweet, full of promise. A voice boomed from the living room. "Are you two planning on blocking the doorway all night, or is somebody going to introduce me to the young man?" Rhodes pulled away, a flicker of panic in his eyes. "Your dad? The one and only." "Right, I should probably try to make a good first impression." Ashley couldn't help but grin. "I think we're a little past that. He's been my sounding board. He knows the whole story." The whole story. Every messy detail. Rhodes squared his shoulders and took a deep breath. "Right, okay, I can do this. You manage a multi-million-dollar empire and you're scared to meet my dad. Your dad matters to you," he said simply, "and that makes him important to me." That was it. Her heart completely surrendered. She laced her fingers through his and led him into the apartment to face her father. "Dad, this is Rhodes King. Rhodes, my father, Julian Dave." Julian gave the younger man a slow, thorough look from head to toe, his face a perfect mask. Then a slow smile spread across his face. "So, you're the one who's been tying my daughter up in knots." Rhodes closed the distance, extending his hand. "Yes, sir, and I give you my word, my intentions toward her are nothing but honorable." Julian's grip was like iron as he shook it. "They damn well better be, because if you cause her a single moment of pain, I don't give a damn about your billions. I will find a way to make you regret it." "Daddy," Ashley protested, but Rhodes met her father's glare without flinching. "I would expect nothing less, sir," he replied, his tone grave. She's my entire world. I intend to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of her." Julian sized him up for a long, tense moment before giving a single sharp nod. "Good answer, now sit. Let's talk about how you're going to help my daughter get her business back on its feet." Ashley's eyes fluttered open to the unfamiliar ceiling of a guest bedroom in Rhodes King's home. Even after they had laid their hearts bare, Rhodes had been the perfect gentleman, right up until the acrid smell of smoke hit her nostrils. She pulled on one of his oversized hoodies and followed the scent to the kitchen, where she found him staring down at a smoking pan with a look of pure panic on his face. A laugh bubbled in her throat. "What in the world are you doing?" Rhodes spun around, a guilty expression plastered across his features. "I was attempting to make you breakfast," he stammered. "I just wanted to show you that I can take care of you too." Ashley peered into the pan at the blackened mess that was once presumably eggs. "Honey, this isn't breakfast. It's an arson investigation." "Hey, I know how to cook," Rhodes protested. "I've been feeding myself for 8 months." "Right," she retorted. "Bland, joyless survival meals." She poked the charred lump with a spatula. This is an act of culinary violence." The corners of his mouth twitched, his dimples making an appearance. "Are you mocking my cooking skills? 100%. With a gentle nudge of her hip, she moved him aside and claimed the stove. "Go sit. Class is in session." 20 minutes later, they were seated at his enormous dining table, a feast of perfectly fluffy eggs, sizzling turkey bacon, and creamy cheese grits before them. Rhodes took a single bite, and his eyes fell shut with an expression of pure bliss. It was a look she was quickly learning to adore, pure, unadulterated appreciation. "This is unbelievable," he murmured. "They're just eggs, Rhodes." "No, they're your eggs, and that makes all the difference." A pleasant warmth bloomed in her chest. "Keep talking like that, and you're going to spoil me." "Good," he said, his voice low. "That's the entire plan." He reached across the vast table, his fingers finding hers and lacing them together. "Ashley, everything I said yesterday about helping you, I meant it. But I want to do more than just get your cart back up and running." "What are you saying?" "I was up all night thinking about it. What if we launched a restaurant together? We could combine your father's incredible recipes with my resources and business acumen. We could build an establishment that not only honors his legacy, but also forges a new one for us. Ashley's breath hitched in her throat. Rhodes, that's, that's an enormous step. I know. And look, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, he added quickly. But it's what I want for our future. I want to build something real with you. Not just a company, a life. Tears welled in Ashley's eyes. Are you serious? She whispered. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. He gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Step 1 is getting your cart back. Step 2 is handling Sienna if she dares to make another move. And step 3, we just take it one day at a time. Can you live with that? Yeah. Ashley breathed, her voice thick with emotion. I can live with that. Rhodes rose from his chair, gently pulling her into his embrace. He placed a tender kiss on her forehead, then her cheeks before finally capturing her lips. I think I could get used to this, she murmured against his mouth. You'd better, he whispered back, because I have no intention of ever letting you go. The following 2 weeks settled into a comfortable, beautiful rhythm. Each morning she'd make breakfast for Rhodes, and they would sit together, their conversations drifting from the profound to the wonderfully trivial. She discovered his obsession with boxing was matched only by his complete inability to play golf. She learned he was fluent in 3 languages, yet utterly tone-deaf, and that his all-time favorite movie was The Godfather, which he claimed to have seen 47 times. 47! Ashley laughed. That is an incredibly specific number. I kept a tally, Rhodes said with a completely straight face which only made her laugh more. She also began to understand the true depth of his condition. One evening, while she was prepping for dinner, Rhodes simply leaned against the door frame of the kitchen watching her. Can I ask you a serious question? Ashley asked, her knife pausing over the cutting board. Anything, he replied. The poisoning. What really happened? The silence that followed stretched on for so long, Ashley was certain he was going to ignore the question. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh and leaned against the counter. Her name was Trinity, he began, his voice low. We were engaged. I was convinced she loved me, but I was wrong. What she loved was my bank account, my name, the lifestyle I provided. The moment I discovered she was sleeping with my former business partner, I called it off. Ashley's hand froze, the knife hovering midair. Rhodes, that's horrible. Oh, it gets worse. She was incandescent with rage. She told me that if she couldn't have me, then nobody could. 2 days later, she asked me to dinner saying she wanted to talk. And I was a fool. I actually went. His voice had become devoid of all emotion, a flat monotone as if he were recounting a story about someone else instead of his own trauma. She drugged my meal. To this day, I don't know exactly what it was. The doctors described it as some kind of slow-acting toxin. If Paxton hadn't realized something was terribly wrong and rushed me to the hospital, I wouldn't be here today. Oh my God, Rhodes. The police took her into custody. She's doing 5 years for attempted murder. But by then, the real damage was already done. After that night, my own body turned on me. Every single time I tried to eat something that I hadn't prepared myself, my mind would drag me right back to that dinner table. I could taste the betrayal all over again, the fear. It was crippling. Ashley carefully set the knife on the counter and closed the distance between them, wrapping her arms tightly around his middle. He wrapped his arms around her, burying his face in her hair. What happened to you? I'm so sorry, she whispered. Don't be, he said, his voice muffled. Not anymore. How can you possibly say that? He pulled back, his eyes locking with hers. Because if my life hadn't fallen apart, I never would have needed you. And if I hadn't needed you, he continued, I would have spent my entire life without ever finding you. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring his face. She let out a watery chuckle. That is without a doubt the most beautifully twisted thing anyone has ever said to me. A genuine laugh escaped him, then a sound she'd rarely heard, and he leaned in to kiss her. I seem to have that effect on people, he murmured against her lips. Later that night, a profound realization settled over Ashley. His recovery wasn't just about his physical condition. He was mending from the deep wounds of betrayal, from the shadows of trauma, and the ingrained fear that love always came with strings attached. And she was absolutely determined to show him that it didn't. The following morning, he caught her completely off guard. Get dressed, he announced at breakfast. Something comfortable. Why, she asked. Because we're going out. Out, as in an actual date. A rare dimple creased his cheek. Is that acceptable to you? Or are you far too important to be seen on a date with your boss? You stopped being my boss a long time ago. Now you're my... She trailed off. What am I exactly? Tell me what you want me to be. Ashley feigned deep contemplation. My impossibly tall, bald, and incredibly handsome boyfriend who happens to be completely obsessed with me. An accurate description, he conceded. Now go get ready. An hour later, they were at Lincoln Park where Ashley was eyeing a pair of ice skates with profound suspicion. You actually brought me ice skating? You told me you loved it, he pointed out, referencing one of their breakfast conversations. You said your father used to bring you every winter. Her heart fluttered. He had remembered. It's been years since I've been on the ice. Well, then this ought to be interesting, he said, handing her the skates with a grin. Full disclosure, I am atrocious at this. He wasn't exaggerating. Rhodes King billionaire tycoon proprietor of 7 restaurants, a 6'5" monolith of pure muscle and confidence, could not skate to save his own life. Ashley watched him stumble onto the ice like a newborn colt and immediately burst into uncontrollable laughter. Stop laughing and come help me, he demanded, clutching the barrier as if his life depended on it. I can't, she gasped. You just look so... She couldn't even finish. She was laughing far too hard. Ashley, I swear I will fire you. You can't fire me, she shot back. I already quit, remember? He attempted to push off the wall toward her, only for his feet to fly out from under him. He landed hard on his rear with a thud that echoed across the entire rink. She gracefully glided over to him and offered her hand. All right, big guy, she teased. Let me show you how it's really done. For the next hour, Ashley took on the role of his teacher, firmly holding his hands, skating backwards to guide him, offering encouragement every time he fell, which was frequently, and laughing until her sides were aching. Finally, at one point, something clicked, and he successfully skated a complete circle without toppling over. I did it, he shouted in triumph. You did? Wait, slow down. Wall? He collided with the barrier but was grinning like a child on Christmas morning. That was absolutely amazing, he said, completely out of breath. You literally just crashed into a wall. Yes, but I skated first. Ashley skated right up to him and kissed him right then and there in front of God and everyone. When they broke apart, Rhodes was gazing at her as if she had personally hung the moon in the sky. Thank you, he said, his voice soft. For what? For making me feel normal. For making me laugh. And for just being you. Her chest swelled with emotion. Rhodes King, I'm pretty sure I'm falling in love with you. You think, he asked, one eyebrow raised. Okay, fine, I know it. I love you. Happy now. The smile that spread across his face could have powered the entire city. A week later, he took her golfing, and this time it was Ashley who was the complete disaster. How is anyone supposed to hit something so tiny, she complained, after whiffing the ball for the 5th time in a row. Rhodes moved to stand behind her, gently adjusting her grip on the golf club. You're all tensed up. You need to relax. Easy for you to say. You're actually good at this. I'm good at everything, he replied with an air of playful arrogance. Ashley playfully turned and tapped him with the club. It wasn't hard, just enough to make him chuckle. Assault, I'm calling the authorities. You are so over the top. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands covering hers on the club. Here, let me give you a hand. Having Rhodes's solid frame pressed against her back, his warm breath on her neck was doing nothing to help Ashley's concentration. You're doing that on purpose, she muttered. Doing what? His voice was the picture of innocence, but she could hear the smile in it. Distracting me? And tell me, is it working? Instead of replying, she turned within his arms and kissed his cheek. I will take that as a definitive yes, Rhodes murmured close to her ear. After that, they abandoned golf altogether and simply walked the course, holding hands and talking about everything under the sun. Rhodes described his plans for a new restaurant idea, a concept that would blend fine dining with the heart of soul food. Ashley told him about her own quiet dream of perhaps attending culinary school one day. You should, Rhodes said immediately. I'll pay for it. Rhodes, before you start to argue, just hear me out. It's not a charity case. Think of it as an investment. You are brilliant, Ashley. You deserve to have the kind of formal training that can match your natural talent. I can't possibly let you pay for culinary school. That's far too much. Why is it I pay for business consultants, marketing experts, and executive chefs? Why wouldn't I invest in the person I intend to build my future with? Ashley stopped walking dead in her tracks. Build a future with Rhodes stopped as well, turning to face her. Yes, unless you happen to have other plans. No other plans, perfect. Then the decision is made. You're going to culinary school and I'll be there for you every step of the way, emotionally and with my checkbook. You have a real take charge attitude, you know that, He just grinned. And you adore it. She couldn't even pretend to deny it. 3 weeks after they'd rekindled things, Rhodes summoned Ashley to his home office. "I've got something for you." He began a flicker of nerves in his eyes she had almost never seen before. "Okay, what's going on?" Rhodes didn't answer, just slid a thick folder across the desk. Her brow furrowed as she opened it to find a stack of dense legal papers. "Rhodes, what am I looking at?" "The King Collective is launching its 8th restaurant next month. It's called Meridian. We had some staffing setbacks that pushed the timeline, but we're finally greenlit to open." "Right, and I need you to run it. As the general manager." The folder slipped from Ashley's fingers. "Excuse me, you heard right. The whole show. You'd be in charge of all operations, liaising with the head chef, managing the entire team, and being the face of the restaurant for our customers." "Rhodes, this is insane. I have zero experience managing a restaurant." He just smiled. "You've been single-handedly running your father's business for months. You have a deep understanding of food, a natural gift for customer service, and something I can't teach: instinct. Everything else is just details you can pick up." Her hands trembled. It's just unbelievable." "It's an opportunity," he corrected gently, "and there's more to it. Give me one spectacular year and a piece of the business becomes yours. I'm talking partial ownership, Ashley. A real stake in Meridian. It would be yours." The air left her lungs. Why are you doing this?" Rhodes rose from his chair, circling the desk, to take both of her hands in his. "Because you've earned it. Because my faith in you is absolute. And because I don't want to just build this empire for you, I want to build it with you." Tears began to trace paths down her cheeks. I'm speechless. "Just say yes," he urged, his voice soft. "Say you'll bet on this. On us." Her gaze dropped to the folder, the tangible future resting in her hands, and then lifted back to Rhodes's face, a stunning mix of hope and vulnerability. Yes, the word was barely a breath. "Yes, absolutely." In a heartbeat, Rhodes swept her into his arms, spinning her around the room until a genuine laugh escaped her lips. "We are going to be unstoppable together," he declared. She smiled against his chest. "We already are. All right, people, let's break this down." Rhodes didn't just give Ashley a manager role. He put ownership on the table. Drop a "Get that bag, Ashley" in the comments if you are loving this glow up. But don't get it twisted. Sienna has been way too quiet, and we all know a storm is brewing when she's silent. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the grand opening of Meridian is about to be pure fireworks. Trust me, you won't want to miss a second of it. The following 3 weeks were an absolute blur for Ashley. Her days were a crash course training alongside Rhodes and the other top managers from the King Collective. She was immersed in the world of inventory systems, the nuances of staff management, elite customer service protocols, and the complexities of financial reporting. Her evenings were reserved for him, spent creating meals for Rhodes, each dish deepening the love that was blossoming between them. Sleep brought dreams of the future they were crafting side by side. Meanwhile, in the real world, her food cart was officially cleared to reopen. But Ashley had already made a tough choice. She was shutting it down for good. "It's time," she explained to her father. "Time for the next chapter." Tears welled in Julian's eyes, but he understood. "You're creating a legacy, baby girl. I couldn't be more proud." On the eve of Meridian's grand opening, Ashley was completely consumed by anxiety. "What if I fail?" she whispered to Rhodes as they lay together in the dark. Having settled into his penthouse 2 weeks prior, the space still felt surreal. "You won't," Rhodes murmured, pulling her tight against him. "But what if the staff won't listen to me or the customers hate everything?" What if Rhodes silenced her cascade of fears with a long, deep kiss? "You are going to be magnificent," he said firmly. "I know it. Paxton knows it, and anyone who has ever met you knows it." She let out a small laugh. "You're a little biased." "Completely biased," he admitted, "and also 100% correct." Ashley nestled into the warmth of his chest, finding solace in the steady rhythm of his heart. "Thank you," she whispered, "for all of this, for seeing something in me when I couldn't see it myself." Always, Rhodes breathed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Now try to get some rest. Tomorrow is a massive day." But as much as she tried, sleep remained just out of reach. Her mind kept replaying the seismic shifts of the last 2 months. From a struggling street vendor to the general manager of a high-end restaurant. From feeling utterly alone to being deeply loved. It all felt too good to be true, a fragile dream she prayed would never end. Meridian's grand opening was set for 7 p.m. that Friday. By 6:30, the restaurant was already buzzing with the creme de la creme of Chicago. Food critics, key investors, powerful business partners, and the city's most followed influencers. Ashley moved through them all in a stunning, sleek black dress, a gift from Rhodes. It was designer, it was expensive, and wearing it, she felt for the first time like she truly belonged in this glittering world. Positioned near the entrance, she greeted each arrival with a warm smile and a poise that she had practiced in the mirror until it felt like second nature. Rhodes materialized at her elbow looking absolutely breathtaking in a tailored dark suit. "You are radiant," he whispered for her ears only. She smiled back. "Not so bad yourself." "How are you holding up?" he asked. Her internal monologue was a chaotic mix of terror, exhilaration, and sheer nausea. Rhodes simply took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "You were made for this." The first hour was flawless. A symphony of praise filled the air as guests gushed about the exquisite food, the captivating ambiance, and the impeccable service. She navigated a minor crisis, a splash of spilled Merlot on a guest's jacket, a reservation that had vanished from the system with a calm efficiency that impressed even herself. By 8 p.m., a sense of ease began to settle over her. And that was the exact moment Sienna made her entrance. Ashley spotted her instantly, an apparition in white standing near the doorway. She was poured into a breathtaking white designer gown, her makeup a mask of perfection. But there was no hiding the raw, puffy redness around her eyes, the unmistakable sign of recent tears. "Rhodes?" Ashley's voice was a low hiss, her fingers digging into his arm. "It's Sienna." He went rigid, his face instantly transforming into a mask of stone. "I've got this." But the words were barely out of his mouth before Sienna was shouldering her way through the diners, a one-woman spectacle. "Rhodes?" she cried, her voice engineered to fracture with pain. "Please, Rhodes." A hush fell over the entire restaurant. Every fork paused midair, every conversation died. All eyes were locked on the unfolding train wreck. Rhodes took a deliberate step toward her. "Sienna, you need to go. Now." "No." Her voice climbed a perfect blend of theater and desperation. "I'm here to apologize. To you both." Her gaze shifted to Ashley, crocodile tears already carving paths down her cheeks. "Ashley, I am so sorry. The way I treated you was unforgivable. I was consumed by jealousy. I was cruel. I was wrong about everything." Ashley could only stare, utterly blindsided. This was not the attack she had braced herself for. "Sienna," Rhodes began, his voice a low warning. "Please," Sienna pleaded, grabbing his arm like a lifeline. "Just let me finish. I know I ruined everything. I know I'm the reason you left. But Rhodes, we shared 2 years of our lives. That was real history, real love. Doesn't that count for something?" The room was captivated, their dinner forgotten, in favor of the free show. "Sienna," Rhodes ground out, "this is neither the time nor the place." "Then when is—" Her voice shattered on a perfectly timed sob. "You won't answer my calls. You've blocked me completely. I'm desperate, Rhodes. I love you. I never stopped loving you." Ashley felt the weight of every stare in the restaurant pressing down on her. It was a waking nightmare. "I am begging you." Sienna pressed, sinking to her knees in a deliberate dramatic fall, her pristine white dress pooling on the floor. "Just give us one more chance. I swear I'll change. I'll be everything you ever wanted. Please, don't throw us away." Through the glistening tears, Ashley saw it, a flicker of cold, hard calculation in Sienna's eyes. This wasn't remorse. It was a meticulously crafted performance designed for maximum public humiliation. And by the look on his face, Rhodes saw it just as clearly. "Get up." "Not until you listen to me," Sienna sobbed. "This is pathetic." Rhodes stated, his voice devoid of all warmth. "Get up and walk out of here, or I will have security escort you." The tears vanished as if a switch had been flipped. In an instant, the desperation in her eyes morphed into pure undiluted venom. "Pathetic." She spat the word, dripping with poison. "You really want to talk about what's pathetic? How about your blind obsession with this little cook? You're so infatuated you can't even see her for what she truly is." "Sienna, I am warning you." "She made a wager with me." Sienna's voice boomed across the silent room as she brandished her phone like a weapon. "She called me weeks ago, bold as brass, and told me she was going to take you from me." A chill washed over Ashley, cold and sharp. That phone call, oh God, she'd recorded it. "That's not what happened." Ashley tried to protest, but it was too late. Sienna had already hit play, the volume on her phone cranked to its absolute maximum. And then her own voice, sharp and clear, echoed through the restaurant. "I was staying away out of respect for your relationship. But that's over now. Now I'm going to make damn sure he sees the real you. And when he's forced to look at who you are versus who I am, we'll see who he picks. A wave of shocked gasps swept through the diners. Rhodes slowly turned to Ashley, his face a mask of disbelief. What the hell is she talking about? It's not what you think, Ashley pleaded, her voice frantic. She called me right after she destroyed my food cart. She was gloating, rubbing it in my face, and I was furious. She admitted she was manipulating you. Sienna cut in, driving the knife deeper. This was all a game to her, Rhodes. She wanted you to think she cared, but all she wanted was to win some twisted competition. That is a lie. Ashley's voice rose, desperate to be heard over the rising murmur. I only said that because you had just sabotaged my livelihood and were laughing about it on the phone. I was defending myself, but it was useless. The damage was already done. Whispers erupted around them, and every gaze that fell on Ashley was thick with suspicion and judgment. Rhodes's head swiveled between Ashley and Sienna, his jaw clenched so tightly it was a wonder it didn't crack. Sienna, get out. Now. Oh, I'm far from finished. Sienna sneered, her voice pure poison as she addressed the captive audience. Do you all want to know the real reason he hired her? The real reason she is so special? Don't, Rhodes warned, his voice dangerously low, almost a whisper. But Sienna was beyond reason high on the destruction she was causing. It's because Rhodes King, founder of the King Collective, the man they call the Golden Palate, can't stomach food made by anyone but himself or her. The room exploded in a cacophony of shocked murmurs. Ashley saw the blood drain from Rhodes' face. How could Sienna possibly know? You heard me, Sienna crowed, her voice sharp with triumph and cruelty. He has some kind of psychological block. He can't even eat in his own five-star restaurants. He can't go to business dinners. His entire public persona is a complete and utter fraud. And Sienna pointed a perfectly manicured finger at Ashley, is his secret little crutch. The only one who can spoon-feed him like a helpless infant. The quiet murmurs swelled into loud, frantic conversations. Snippets of it reached Ashley's ears. Can that possibly be true? How can you run an empire of restaurants if you can't eat the food? This is unbelievable. Has he even tasted the menu here at Meridian? Rhodes was a statue, paralyzed, living out his worst-case scenario in front of the whole world. The food critics in the room were already tapping away on their phones. His business partners stared, their expressions a mixture of confusion and betrayal. His investors were huddled together, whispering furiously. The empire Rhodes had built, every ounce of his life's work, was imploding right before her eyes. And she knew with a sickening certainty that it was all her fault. If she had just ignored Sienna's call, if she had never uttered those stupid, angry words, if she had never even walked into his life. Is this true? Bernard Rhodes's primary investor stepped out from the crowd, his voice cutting through the noise. Do you have some condition that keeps you from eating? Rhodes's jaw was a knot of solid steel. She could see the gears grinding in his mind, desperately trying to conjure some way to twist this to protect his reputation. But she knew better. There was no spin, only the raw, undeniable truth. So with her heart hammering against her ribs, she took a step into the silence and prepared to detonate it. She spoke. Yeah, Ashley's voice cut through the murmurs, sharp and clear. It's true. Every single head in the room swiveled in her direction. Rhodes suffers from a psychological condition, one born from severe trauma. 2 years ago, the woman he was supposed to marry attempted to poison him. Ever since that day, his body violently rejects any food that isn't made by a trusted hand. The room had gone completely still. And yes, I am the only person whose cooking he is able to eat. We don't know why. The specialists don't know why. But it is the reality of our lives. Out of the corner of her eye, she felt Rhodes's gaze burning into her, but she couldn't stop now. And you want to know what else is true? Rhodes King is the single most brilliant, dedicated, and passionate restaurateur this city has ever seen. He forged the King Collective from absolute scratch, fueled by nothing more than his vision and relentless hard work. And a connection to food that runs deeper than mere taste. But how? A voice from the crowd challenged. How can he possibly run restaurants if he can't eat the food? Ashley cut them off without missing a beat. The same way a blind producer can compose a masterpiece. The same way a deaf choreographer can guide a ballet by mastering the fundamentals on a level most of us can barely comprehend. She finally let her gaze fall on Rhodes, whose eyes were shimmering with an unfamiliar light. Rhodes King understands flavor technique and chemistry better than any chef I have ever known. He can diagnose a flawed dish simply by its aroma. He can observe a line cook and identify a mistake before the pan even leaves the fire. He doesn't rely on taste to recognize excellence. He feels it. Ashley faced the crowd again. So yes, I help him. I am his hands. I am his chef. I act as his palate when a final confirmation is needed. But that does not make him a fraud. It doesn't make him weak. It makes him a human being. It makes him a survivor who endured something unthinkable and still managed to build an empire. Her voice trembled, thick with emotion, but she forced the words out. So go ahead and judge him for a condition that is completely beyond his control. Fine, but do not you dare question his genius, his commitment, or his right to stand here. Because Rhodes King has more talent and integrity in his smallest finger than most people in this room possess in their entire being. Her chest was heaving, the words leaving her breathless as hot tears streamed down her cheeks. And Sienna? She locked eyes with her. You asked if I was trying to steal him from you. You're goddamn right I was. But it was never about a game. It was never a bet. It's because I fell completely and utterly in love with him. Because he is brilliant and kind, and he makes me feel like I am seen. Because he looked past the food stall, past the title of chef, past every label you or anyone else wanted to slap on me. Her gaze found Rhodes again, her voice dropping to a near whisper. I fell in love with you because you are without question the greatest man I have ever known. And if no one else in this room can see that, then they are the ones who are blind. A profound, absolute silence descended. And then from the back, a single sound broke the stillness. Clapping. Ashley's head snapped up to see Julian Dave guided into the room in his wheelchair by Juno. He was striking his good hand against his thigh, creating a steady rhythm. That's my girl, Julian's voice boomed. You tell him, baby. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the guests. Then Paxton joined in. Then a line cook, his hands still dusted with flour. Then a server. Slowly, like a rising tide, the applause swelled and began to fill the space. Not everyone joined. Whispers still snaked through the crowd. Judgmental eyes still lingered, and a few people were already making for the exit. But enough of them were clapping, and that was enough to matter. Rhodes moved toward her, then the rest of the room fading into a blur. His eyes fixed on hers were all that existed. You stood up for me, he said, his voice raw with emotion, in front of all of them. Of course I did, she said simply. You told the truth. You risked everything for me. Rhodes, he framed her face with his hands, his touch both firm and gentle. I love you, God. Ashley, I am so in love with you. And then he kissed her right there with the world watching, investors, critics, patrons, and Sienna. When they finally broke apart breathless, the room had erupted into a chaotic symphony of applause and fervent whispers. Rhodes kept his arms securely around Ashley's waist as he turned to face them all. Everything Ashley just told you is the truth. Every last word of it. I have a condition and I have been managing it in the only way I knew how. And yes, that meant keeping it a secret. Because I was terrified of this exact moment. His gaze swept the room unflinchingly, meeting every eye he could. If this revelation shakes your confidence in the King Collective, I can accept that. If you wish to withdraw your investments, publish scathing reviews, or fuel the gossip mill, that is your prerogative. But before you do, I need you to understand something. Every single establishment under my name was founded on a principle of excellence. Every chef I've employed was selected for their unparalleled skill. Every menu was meticulously engineered. My condition does not alter any of those facts. At that moment, Bernard stepped out from the crowd. Rhodes, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for 7 years. I've witnessed the construction of this empire firsthand, and I confess I've often marveled at your impossibly high standards. Rhodes braced himself, expecting the final killing blow. And now, Bernard continued, it all makes sense. You have to work twice as hard as anyone else in this room. You perceive details that others overlook because you cannot afford the luxury of relying on taste alone. You have achieved unparalleled success against insurmountable odds. He extended a hand. My investment is secure. I stand with you. Rhodes took his hand, looking utterly poleaxed. Then Miranda Castellano, the infamous food critic, added her 2 cents. Just so you know, Rhodes, I'm still filing a story on this. But it's not the one Sienna was hoping for. Mine is about resilience. It's about facing the fire and building something magnificent from the ashes of trauma. In that moment, the room divided. A few drifted away, their loyalty fractured, but most drew closer, their admiration for him solidifying into something unbreakable. Maxiana was an island near the entrance, her scheme in ruins, her influence evaporated. "You will live to regret this," she seethed at Rhodes, her eyes flicking between him and Ashley. "The only thing I regret," Rhodes replied, his voice a calm anchor in the storm, "is giving 2 years of my life to someone who never even tried to see the real me." Sienna's perfect composure shattered, and for a fleeting second, Ashley felt a pang of pity for her. Then Sienna's spine snapped straight, her face hardening into a mask of contempt. "You two are perfect for each other." A broken man clinging to a little girl playing dress-up. "You're absolutely right," Ashley said, her voice clear and steady. "We do." With one last glare, Sienna turned and left, and Ashley prayed to every god she knew that it was the final time she'd ever have to see her face. The rest of the night unfolded in a surreal haze. While some patrons departed, a surprising number remained, the atmosphere transforming from one of tense scandal to genuine celebration. Julian rolled up to Rhodes, giving him a long measuring look. "So," Julian began, a dangerous glint in his eye, "you're the one who made my daughter cry." Rhodes went pale. "Sir, I'm hoping those were the good kind of tears." Rhodes visibly unclenched. "I make it a policy to avoid the other kind." "See that you do." Julian's expression finally softened into a smile. "In all seriousness, son, thank you for recognizing her worth, for championing her talent, for loving her the way she's always deserved to be loved." "I'm the one who's lucky, sir." "Damn right you are." Julian shot a wink at Ashley. "So when are you planning on making an honest woman out of her?" "Dad," Ashley's cheeks burned. A slow dimple appeared in Rhodes' cheek. "Whenever she'll have me, sir, but I'm hoping it's soon. If I get any say in the matter." Ashley's breath caught. "Rhodes. Too much," he murmured, his eyes dancing with light. "Right, maybe let me get my pulse back to normal first." "Fair point." But hours later, after the last guest had departed and the buzz of the kitchen had fallen silent, Rhodes reached for Ashley's hand. "Come with me." He led her up a flight of stairs to the building's rooftop, the private space above Meridian. The entire Chicago skyline unfurled before them, a breathtaking tapestry of light and endless promise. "Ashley," Rhodes began, turning to her under the stars. "2 months ago, my world stalled out right in front of your food cart. I was starving in every sense of the word. I was surrounded by success, but utterly empty. I had everything a man could want, but nothing that mattered." "Rhodes, no, let me say this," he said, his voice soft. "You didn't just feed me, you nourished my soul with your laughter, your hope, your love. You looked right past the celebrity chef in the empire and saw the man drowning underneath it all. The broken, terrified man who was just trying to keep his head above water." Hot tears traced paths down Ashley's cheeks. "Tonight you stood up for me when it would have been easier to walk away. You put everything on the line for me, and I know this is unbelievably fast. I know we've only had 2 months, but Ashley, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You're my endgame." And then Rhodes dropped to one knee and Ashley's hand flew to her lips in a silent gasp. "I couldn't get a ring yet. It felt presumptuous. But I do have a question. Ashley, will you be my wife? Will you create a life with me? Will you let me spend the rest of my days showing you how much I cherish the impossible gift of your heart?" Ashley was crying so hard the city lights blurred into a watercolor painting. "You insane, beautiful, perfect man," she choked out through a sob. "Yes, 1,000 times yes, I'll marry you." In a single motion, Rhodes was on his feet, pulling her into a fierce, triumphant embrace. When they finally drew back, a mess of tears and laughter, Rhodes murmured, "We should probably go tell your father." "Oh God, he is going to be insufferable." "I wouldn't have it any other way." The wedding was a dream. It was held in a majestic ballroom with panoramic views of Lake Michigan, the entire space overflowing with flowers and candlelight filled with every person they held dear. But Ashley saw none of it. Her world had narrowed to the man at the altar, devastatingly handsome in a bespoke tuxedo, watching her as if she were the single miracle he had spent his life praying for. Julian walked her down the aisle, truly walked, leaning on his cane, waving off any assistance, resolute in his mission to do this himself. As he placed Ashley's hand into Rhodes, he whispered, "You take care of my girl, of my—" "With everything I am, sir," Rhodes vowed. The ceremony itself was a whirlwind of heartfelt promises, happy tears, and shared laughter. But when the officiant finally declared, You may now kiss your bride. And Rhodes gathered her in his arms. The entire universe seemed to hold its breath. I love you, he breathed against her lips. I love you more, she whispered back, and as they kissed, the room erupted. Ashley was sure her heart would beat right out of her chest. Later that night, as he spun her around the dance floor for their first dance, Ashley murmured into his ear, when I was practically begging you to buy my noodles, did you ever in your wildest dreams imagine this? Rhodes let out a rich laugh, his famous dimples deepening. Not a chance. I thought you were the most aggravating woman I'd ever met. Rhodes, a gorgeous, tenacious, completely captivating, kind of aggravating. Better. He pulled her flush against him, his gaze turning tender and serious. But if I'm being honest, the second I tasted that broth and realized I wasn't going to die, a little part of me knew. It knew you were extraordinary. It knew you were about to turn my entire world upside down. And now I get a lifetime of being changed by you. There's nothing on this earth I want more. And they kissed again, lost in the music in the center of a universe they had built together. A year later, Ashley stood at the pass of Monroe and King, surveying her kingdom from the heart of the kitchen. The restaurant, a vibrant fusion of Julian's soulful recipes and Rhodes's world-class culinary vision, was more than just a space. It was their shared dream brought to life. The city had fallen for them hard. A flawless 5-star rating from the Chicago Food Alliance, breathless reviews from every major critic, and a reservation list that stretched 6 months into the future. But it was more than the accolades. It was the feeling of belonging. Chef King, your 2 o'clock is waiting. One of her sous chefs called out, and a small smile touched Ashley's lips. She'd never quite get used to the formal title, but the thrill of hearing it never faded. She stepped into the dining room to find Rhodes at their usual corner table, looking absolutely breathtaking in a tailored navy suit. Mr. King, she teased, her eyes dancing with light. Your usual table, I presume? Actually, Rhodes replied, his voice a low hum. He rose smoothly, pulling her into his embrace, without a care for the staff looking on. I was thinking we had something to celebrate. Celebrate what? She whispered. Rhodes's hand gently moved to her still flat stomach, his signature dimples making an appearance. The fact that in roughly 7 months we're going to need a high chair at this table. Ashley's breath caught in her throat. How could you possibly know? I just took the test this morning. Paxton might have noticed the test box in the bathroom trash and made a direct report to my office. That man is a walking spoiler alert. Rhodes chuckled, capturing her lips in a soft kiss. So is it true? Are we having a baby? We're having a baby, Ashley confirmed, her own voice thick with unshed tears of joy. In that moment, Rhodes swept her off her feet, spinning her around in a dizzying, joyous circle, as the entire restaurant staff erupted in applause and cheers. I love you, Rhodes murmured against her hair, holding her tight. You, me, this incredible life we've built, and the little person who's about to join it. I love you too, she whispered back. Even though you are fundamentally incapable of letting a surprise actually be a surprise. In my defense, he countered with a grin, this is the single greatest secret I've ever been told. That evening, they shared the news with Julian. His reaction was a cascade of happy tears, followed immediately by elaborate, detailed plans on exactly how to spoil his future grandchild. Later that night, curled up against Rhodes in the penthouse that had become their sanctuary, Ashley reflected on the sheer distance she had traveled. From a frightened young woman desperately trying to save a food cart to a celebrated chef, a successful entrepreneur, and now on the verge of becoming a mother. She hadn't just survived, she had flourished. What's going on in that beautiful mind of yours? Rhodes asked softly, his fingers tracing patterns in her hair. Just all of it, she breathed. Thinking about how one broken-down car completely altered the course of my life. The best damn mechanical failure I could have ever asked for. Rhodes, Ashley said, her voice quiet. Thank you for breaking down in front of my cart that day. A low, warm laugh rumbled through his chest. And thank you, he countered, for being so infuriatingly stubborn that I had no choice but to try your food. We're both completely ridiculous and completely in love. That too, she agreed. And as Ashley drifted towards sleep, safe in her husband's arms, their baby on the way, and their future a brilliant open road, she held on to the most profound lesson she had learned. Love doesn't show up when you're finally ready for it. It doesn't wait until you're flawless or until your life is perfectly organized or after you've checked off every box on your list. Love can find you when you are shattered and scrambling and barely hanging on by a thread. And when true love arrives, the kind that sees your scars and your imperfections and your beautiful mess and says, yes, this is what I want. You don't second guess it. You don't tear it apart with analysis. You refuse to let pride or fear or the noise of the world get in your way. You just hold on for dear life and let it transform you. Because love was never about being perfect together. It's about being perfectly imperfect side by side. Thank you for joining Rhodes and Ashley on their incredible journey. If their story moved you, please show your support by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that their own story isn't over. It is only just beginning. And remember, you are enough right now exactly as you are. The right person will see that. The right moment will find you. The right life is waiting for you. You just have to be brave enough to take that first bite.